Granville County Board of Commissioners Annual Retreat. And I want to thank everyone for being here today. We appreciate you attending. And we'll start with an invocation and pledge by Commissioner Griffin.
Thank you. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly most gracious Father, we come to you today, Father, just beseeching thy knowledge and thy wisdom. Father, as we go through this meeting today, Father, discussing the needs and wants and considerations of our county and of our people, Father, we pray that your presence will be here among us and that you will intervene in all decisions we make today, God, and that we will use thy judgment so that we can do the best for our county. We ask these things now, Father, as we go through this meeting, to give us the understanding, compassion that we need to consider all these things before us. We ask these things in thy name, my Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
All right, thank you, everyone. Based on the agenda, we got a long ways to go and a short time to get there. So with that, I'll turn it over to our county manager, Mr. Drew Cummins, for comments.
There we go. Okay. Good afternoon, Commissioners. It is good to see all of you. And before I go anywhere, I want to thank Jessica and Karen and Audrey and others who have worked very hard to get this room set up for us and looking so nice and providing us with the sustenance we need to keep going and the dinner that will be forthcoming for us and some of our partners. So thank you to them. It is your staff's goal every year to make this budget and planning retreat as meaningful and productive for commissioners as possible. And we really do that in two ways. The first way is with a wide variety of updates for you that we think will help give you context for our deliberations and through the rest of the year's budget cycle. We've got two sets of those coming at you. Today we have the staff from the NCACC, two of our legislators, and our municipal partners will be bringing updates to the board today. And then on Friday, we have a good variety of county functions and staff coming to speak to you from some key areas that do have and will have an impact on the fiscal 25-26 budget. And second, and I hope that this turns out to be a meaningful exercise, but we have some exercises and discussions teed up for you that will help us understand the parameters and details of the budget you would like staff to bring you in May. As you know, it's really a key part of our jobs, right? To kind of keep our eyes and ears open and our antenna up to assess commissioners' preferences on a pretty wide variety of topics. No budget season is easy, but the more we're in communication, clear communication on your preferences and thoughts on the budget, the better we'll be able to bring you the budget that you want. And I think through this retreat, through our one-on-one meetings, through our small group meetings, and our regular board meetings, we're listening in all of those conversations, trying to make sure that we understand where you are on these important topics. So I hope that the exercises and discussions that we've got teed up on that front continue to give us the information we need to bring you the budget that you desire. I wanted to also take this opportunity to talk for a minute. The superintendent is not here yet, but we do have one school board member here, Ms. Hayes, welcome. he has talked a number of times about the value of zero-based budgeting for the schools, and I have gotten questions from a couple of commissioners about, well, what is that? Could we do that? Do we do that? And what I want to say is that there are a lot of different methods for applying scrutiny to budgets, and we have been using a lot of those for the last several years, and many of them were probably in place before I got here as well. I'm sure they were. But what I want to communicate to commissioners is that while what we do, I don't call it zero-based budgeting, and it may lack some of the details of that process, we have been applying a great deal of scrutiny, at line item level and below to all of our department budgets for 3 years running now. This will be my third time through this cycle, and I feel comfortable with the level of scrutiny that we apply to budgets. One thing that I will say, though, is that one thing that you can imagine a zero-based budgeting process eliminating is wasteful spending, right? We're spending money or budgeting money for stuff that we don't need or that just isn't necessary. And I think at this point there is very little of that. But another and maybe more important observation is that in order for us to make sure that our funding, right? People call a budget a moral document. They say if you want to see what the priorities of the county commissioners are, look at the budget that they pass, right? And if we want to make sure that our expenditure of public funds is prioritized and strategic, we have to have some kind of plan, right, that helps us determine those priorities and make sure that we're being strategic. And as I think most of you know, we are in year 5 of a 5-year strategic plan, and next fiscal year we'll have a new strategic planning process that we'll bring to you. And I want you to know that I will be working with our staff to make that as meaningful a process as we can, and not have the strategic plan just describe kind of what the county is doing, right? Just the status quo, right? Here's what the county does. But to really try to give more of a sense of direction and sense of prioritization, because it's through that kind of guidance that we can understand, okay, based on the prioritization that the commissioners have given us, it might be appropriate to pull back over here and expand over here. At the moment, our current strategic plan may give us some guidance on questions like that, but I think I'm hopeful that a new process next fiscal year can give us an even greater sense of what our top priorities are and what we're trying to achieve. So this doesn't need to be the end of the conversation about zero-based budgeting or the kinds of rigor that we apply to our budgets, departmental budgets, and overall county budget. I don't mean that. I just wanted to address a topic that had come up a couple of times in conversation with commissioners. So that's what I have by way of introduction. I do have, we do have, and numerous staff have helped with the development of these. We have a number of slides with, what would I call them, kind of big rocks, right? Potential targets for major needs or potential targets for the limited amount of additional funding that we will have next year through natural growth in the property tax, through some of the budget cutting exercises that we've gone through with departments. So it's a big and important question. Where will that limited pot of funding go, right? And so we have we'll be going through an exercise on Friday with you all, but wanted to kind of preview that today and see if you have additional thoughts on kind of areas that might need more funding that you would like to add to the list that we'll work from on Friday. So could we go to the next slide? There we go. So here are, I think there are 10 or 12 initial ones that we've got on the list. 10. And so these are 10 items that we think are potentially claimants on, limited pot of new funding for next year. Oh, that's right. And they're in alphabetical order. They're not in any what we think of as a priority order or anything. They're just alphabetical. So broadband is one, right? On the one hand, we know that we've got a number of federally funded, state-funded projects underway that will take a number of years to play out. There are still possibilities of additional RFPs and matching funds that the county might be in a position to contribute to if we wanted to continue moving in that direction or accelerate the work that's already happening. Karina, do you want to say anything more about those options?
They have the CAB project out, and we haven't really heard anything, but other opportunities will be coming, and we just wanted to kind of gauge if there's interest in us pursuing anything down the road. But I don't have anything really new to report from the state on those grants.
And I haven't heard commissioners clamoring recently, but I know that that's been a hot topic for a long time in Granville County and worth putting out there for discussion.
I just want to make sure for the format. So as you talk about these topics, are you looking for us to interact, or just you're going to go through them then allow us to interact?
If you have questions about any of these individual ones, feel free to ask them.
So on the broadband, is that part of the further discussion we're going to have with the CIP regarding infrastructure, or is the CIP going to be, are these funds going to be obtained through other sources?
That's a good question. I do think that in principle, matching funds for further broadband projects could be carved out of our capital fund. They are paying for infrastructure, right? Infrastructure that will serve the public. So that's something we could discuss, the specific funding source, but I think that's a possibility.
With the broadband, are we going to get a status report on all the projects that are already out there, as far as, because they were adding their own to some of those projects. So when the telecompanies would come and talk to us, it was always proprietary and never leave the maps behind. We weren't really 100% sure where they had infrastructure in the ground. It was like this big secret, of course, from each other. But these companies were coming out and doing work, some of it on our behest and others just because it's good business. And are we going to find out where they're working?
So it's a very tough conversation to have with them, because they still want to be proprietary about where they're putting lines that are outside of the scope of the grant. I've made several inquiries and really kind of heading up against a brick wall. When they're all finished, we're going to be able to figure out where they've connected, I hope. But that information, unless it's connected to the grant, we really don't have access to it. They do provide a quarterly status report on the projects that are out there. Just so you know, the very first one that you approved with Brightspeed, that project is set, I think their deadline is this May. So we've not, I heard from the state today, we have not gotten any word from them yet that they want an extension, although I don't think that they're quite going to get finished in time. They could request an extension, but we have not heard yet as if they're going to.
I agree with Commissioner May Commissioner Karen was saying about knowing where they got lines in the grounds at, because up my way, Spectrum took and run lines. Then right behind it, Brightspeed came on and ran lines in the same area, in the same spot. It's just a waste, and where they could be helping other people in the areas. They should. Somehow along the line, we're not communicating where they're not communicating with us, letting us know where we got the stuff at.
So just so you know, none of those would be eligible for grant funding. So they're doing that.
We're not paying anything for that. They're just doing that of their own accord.
Yes.
Who's Spectrum?
Well, a number of companies, I think, who are connecting dots and doing other things that just aren't, they're not funded with the grants, and so we don't really have a lever to sort of say, don't do that, do this instead, or something like along those lines.
If
I had
our
some,
money or if grant money is going in a project on an area, you can be guaranteed that they're not gonna give grant to someone else to come back behind them and do the same. If they choose to do that on their own, which they may, but those aren't both going to be grant projects.
sounds like they're competing, which is not bad. And then the other part, I had some line laid today out on Highway 56 in between Highway 56 and 96 and the Franklin County line, which that was not part of any of the most recent. So we do have some new neighborhoods coming in the area. So again, I'm okay with that. I'm just wondering, one question I have is that NCDIT, is that right? Are they, sounds to me like they don't want to be assertive, or are they prohibited from being assertive, and how they kind of push the cable companies to be more communicative with the public or with a local government?
Those sections, they really had an influence on where the provider goes, other than offering grant funding.
Go ahead.
Russ, I've been in contact, we've had several citizens in our district that have responded about that. And the gentleman I forward them to is Jeffrey Brooks, I believe. And he has responded back usually within 24 hours, but certainly within 3 or 4 days to the citizen. We get copied on it. But he's been, he's come back now. That doesn't mean they get out there and start putting the lines in, but he's given them answers, and most of those answers have been concrete, and they've done what they've said they're going to do. It's been our experience.
Just to kind of follow up, I think we don't have a great lever for making them share what they may consider to be a trade secret. Well, private companies often don't want to do that. You don't have to in most cases, unless it is receiving public money of some sort. And Commissioner Jay, to your question and concern, I think, we might prioritize differently, right? Getting everybody a connection before some people have multiple connections, but there's some value in that competition as well, right? To have one provider that you basically have to use their service or you don't get it, can result in sort of bad outcomes as well. So even if we would prefer the rollout happening in a different way, there is an upside, right? As at your house, right? If you don't like one of the providers, you can see what the other one's offering, right? Maybe it's cheaper or better or faster. But we don't have a way, if it's not a grant-funded project, again, we don't have a way of telling them, don't do that, do this instead.
What percentage of our county now currently has service, and is there any kind of timeline for implementing service to the rest of our residents in the county? I mean, I understand it's on a funding, and they kind of go where they want to, but a lot of people ask me that question all the time. Like, for instance, Berea Library does not have internet access in their library.
Okay. Hey, I think they are getting a Starlink answer there. So a couple of things. One of which is we certainly know the timeline, at least the endpoint within which, unless they default, right, within which the contracted number of households and businesses will be served by the grant projects. So it's definitely possible to quantify that. And you can kind of maybe back out from some of the maps and other things and the new projects, kind of what percentage of people would at least have access to something that they could pay for. even that gets complicated, right? Because you can say people could just get Starlink, right? But not everybody can afford $120, $150 a month, whatever it is, right? So really what we're talking about is somewhat affordable internet. And I just don't know if we have a good across-the-board tool for assessing what percentage of the population is served. The other part of your question, Commissioner Griffin, is except insofar as we might opt to put more money into kind of matching additional projects, we don't really have a lot of leverage to make the private companies do what we want them to do. So in some respects, it's a little bit like the grocery store or the restaurant or the coffee shop conversation, right? You get a certain density of houses, certain number of houses, and the internet companies will be there hooking everybody up, right? But until that happens, there's not always a good tool for us to kind of push them to do what we want them to do.
Mark, we had a conversation last year, you and I did with NCDIT, and their goal is to get all those who do not have any internet access, because we have a number of areas in southern Granville where we have access, but it's not really good access. So they have to, their first goal is to get everyone served that doesn't have access. And then the next step was the last resort, what they determined was out of the bulk funding that they were getting for all this would have been then go to Starlink. And so it seems like they're doing that in some specified areas now or through some partnerships. But that would be like the last resort, and that would be areas that were really remote within the so-called off-the-grid type environments in the county that would have that opportunity. But that's pretty much how they directed it. It was going to meet all the needs of people across the county, and those that are what they determined to be underserved by not having the full capabilities, that would be kind of last on the list if they got to it. That's what I understood. It's about getting some basic internet to everybody.
So this grants all prioritize unserved and then underserved.
Okay. Moving on to the second one, obviously, for the last year and a half, we've been talking a lot about county capital improvement plan and the need for different kinds of county facilities and courthouse renovation and so on. And so without kind of presupposing a particular project, and also acknowledging that the Hawley Recreation site is, check, there we go. Already has $1 million for demo and planning baked into next year's budget. But what this placeholder does is acknowledge that county facility work may be a claim on, operating funds and or CIP funds in next year's budget. Courthouse upkeep. I've tried to keep you all updated on the status of conversations with courthouse stakeholders. I do think over time there's been significant underinvestment in janitorial services, just kind of day-to-day cleaning maintenance, so replacing carpet periodically, repainting periodically, repairing or replacing other flooring periodically is just not something that I'm aware we have done much of, and I think the courthouse shows that. The third category is furnishings, right? And again, these are all things that we make at least limited provision for in our county budgets for our county departments. And I think there's a pretty strong logic for trying to put them on something close to a similar footing in terms of, again, janitorial maintenance and furnishings. I don't think this is likely to be a gigantic kind of budget buster kind of thing, but I do think it's an investment that will be pretty high on the list of priorities. Any questions on any of these before we go on to the next slide? All right, next slide. Employee pay. And I think that there's sort of the general kind of topic, but also it has been 5+ years since we have engaged in a class and compensation study, and we believe that it is time to go through that process again. That will give us more objective, comparative information about what the market is paying for the kinds of positions that we have in Granville County. And so I think it's our goal. We're estimating a cost now. We haven't gotten firm proposals yet, estimating a cost maybe of around $50,000 to do a comprehensive class and comp study. That's probably not the big kahuna, right? The big part is when you get study results back, what are you going to do with them? That's the much more expensive question. And in part because we haven't gotten good across the board data for quite some time, we're eager to get going on the study itself. I think there will be a resulting question in next fiscal year, whether we want to wait for the following fiscal year, 26-27, to do any implementation, or whether we may have some wiggle room to do a partial earlier implementation, let's say halfway through next fiscal year. So more to come on that, but a lot of we don't really know what kind of a gap a study like this will show us, and so it's hard to know in advance what the damage, you might want to call it, or what the aggregate gap might be. Question, comment?
Yes, sir. And I think there's a reason why I don't have a mic. I think they want me to talk to Lisa. I'm almost sure Karen set it up that way so she could keep me quiet. No, I tell you, been through this thing, and this employee pay plan conversation is one that I think we really need to move carefully with, because once you do it, you're exactly right. The cost of the plan itself is one thing, but we can end up with a series of morale issues if we don't deal with that data in a way that we need. So I think it's a commitment almost, not just to pay for the plan, but if we're not committed to pay for what it say we need to do, we create problems that we probably don't have today.
That's a great point, but I will point out, right, with employee pay, you pay one way or the other. I was reviewing with Karina HR department slides for Friday this morning, and our turnover rates are fairly high, above 30% annually, which was a surprise to me. That's a significant. That kind of churn and training new people is also hard for an organization to do, and it costs money, and it costs time, and it costs us in kind of lost operational efficiency. And so in some respects, right, you pay one way or the other for the decisions that we make with regard to employee pay. But Commissioner Cozart is exactly right, that it is something to kind of walk carefully with, and to understand what you're getting into when you get into it. I'll also say one other thing, which is you all know, because you all approved these steps, that we've made some significant, more targeted efforts with regard to sheriff's office pay, social services pay, other public safety pay. And what I'd say is that will help us in a comprehensive study like this, right? Because we've already made up some of the gap that we knew was there. So hopefully the gap in those areas would be a little less than it might otherwise have been.
About how often should we be looking at a pay and classification study? Every 5 years, every 7 years? Is there a timeline, or does it kind of go along with the economy? If prices go up, we should probably look at it more often. Prices come stabilize less often.
I think I would answer it in a slightly different way, in the sense that, the standard conventional wisdom is maybe every 5 years or so.
Okay.
It's good to review it. I think that what that reflects is not so much inflation has happened or something like that, but you all are aware that, during and after COVID, there was just a huge amount of churn. Pay was changing dramatically. And so over a course of any 5-year period, right, you can have a significant amount of change. I think over the last 5 years, there has objectively been much more than the average 5-year amount of change and churn and just kind of mismatching and having to adjust on the fly. And we've done our best to adjust on the fly to specific situations, but I think it is a good time for a more comprehensive review of where we are. And so that's kind of where I think we are. But 5 years is sort of the general conventional wisdom. You can get away sort of continuing to apply Band-Aids and kind of patchwork approach in the meantime, right? And there are places probably that never do a comprehensive study. All they do is just the patchwork response. But for the cost of, let's say, $50,000, getting a better across-the-board view of where you are relative to your competition with pay and benefits, I think is has some value to it.
So right now, Jimmy, I'll just add to that we're at 6 years because the study that was actually conducted in 2019, but because of COVID and some staff turnover here at the county, it wasn't implemented. And so we're at 6 years, and then if we do this, by the time we get the results back, we'll be pushing 7.
Okay. And for some of you have been here a lot longer than me. When was the prior to the 2019 study done?
20 years before that, they hadn't done a study.
That's what I was thinking. It'd been like 20 years without one, and there had been adjustments made, but not a full-scale pay and classification study and until 2019.
What's interesting to me when I think about that, the changes in pay, obviously there were, we had a pretty hefty bill that came due, but the change over that 20-year period is not the same change that we've seen.
County Manager, just two questions on that. As part of the staffing, is that going to include a feasibility study? In other words, do we have too many in certain positions or too little? How is our staffing actually modeled? And basically look at the economy to scale in regards to staffing to see if we have the right posture. That's one. And the other is the turnover rate. Where's the biggest turnover rate occurring within the county? I'm not aware of that high a rate within our county employees. But I think there's been over a period of years, or at least a number of years, where detention, 911, and sheriff's office, not just during this administration, but where there's been a large number of turnover and continue to be in law enforcement in general. So I don't want us to get caught off guard on that turnover rate. If we're having a turnover rate among our county employees because we're failing to do something, that's something that that really concerns me. If we have a turnover rate because we're trying to keep up with the Joneses in regards to pay for law enforcement, that's a tough one because, at some point in that arena, you have to be satisfied where you are because the pace is growing rapidly between Raleigh, Durham, Wake Forest. You can even look at Henderson, where starting salaries for a police officer is $60,000 a year. So I just want to make sure that, when we go through the process of doing this, that we really get focused on our issues county within county employment, and we can look at, obviously, it's the sheriff's office is part of what we have to make a determination on pay and stuff, but not be misled that the turnover rate is indicative of something that's going on within the county that's not so good, rather than the fact that, there's typical turnover. There's different, we have more mobile markets now. We have employees that decide that after a certain period of time, they get a certain level of education, they decide to move on to a larger municipality or county. So I just want to make sure that when we do that, that we really look at the real indicative factors and contributing factors that drive it.
Couple of good points there. Your first question, I'm not aware that a typical pay and class study will help you answer the question, are you appropriately staffed in given areas? I think what they would say if we asked them that is, that's really a local policy decision, right? There's not a correct amount of law enforcement to have. It's how much law enforcement do you want in your community based on the law enforcement issues you have, right? So not every place will answer that question the same. You make a lot of good points about other things, right? I mean, we have choices to make, right? Are we going to try to achieve parity with Henderson or Durham or Wake County, right? Or are we going to do what we can but recognize that we're operating in and serving a different kind of a market, and we may make a decision to be okay with whatever that produces, right? And every time I get over-focused on pay questions, staff members will remind me that there are a lot of other things besides pay that convince people to go or to stay, and that organizational culture is something that contributes a lot and something that we should should be working on and are always working on. So, okay, Granville County Public Schools operations. So we know, and I see the superintendent and other folks in the house, and this is just an observation, right? That every year they help make us aware of the operational needs at the schools and the gaps that they see, or potential gaps between how they have to operate in the current budget and how they would prefer to operate, or how they would operate if their budget was somewhat larger. We often call this current expense, right? The annual operational appropriation, currently around 19 million. So I anticipate that will, this coming budget season and every budget season thereafter, continue to be, something that we have to focus on and discuss. General services. So we have a couple of things going on. This again is not necessarily a gigantic area, but one that we have been focusing on in a couple of different ways. There is an RFP out right now for janitorial services covering a fairly wide range of county facilities, including the courthouse, right? And we've been showing around contractors. They've been coming and looking. These are potential bidders, right? Have been coming and looking at different county facilities, trying to figure out how much it would cost them to have staff cleaning those buildings X days a week, right? And with the following kinds of services. So I think it's been not news to you all, right? But that the current method that we have for cleaning a lot of our buildings, which has been some lightly supervised part-time workers, has not always produced the results that we hoped for. And so this is your staff kind of looking at some alternatives that might have the potential to produce different and better results. Additionally, you all know, actually at your last meeting, you approved, at least for a temporary basis, an additional assistant director of facility maintenance position. And whether we would opt in the long run to stay with 4 positions or even more, right, to maintain the 25 to 30 buildings and roughly 300,000 square feet of space that we have. That'll be a policy question for us, or pair of policy questions for us in the coming cycle. Next slide, please.
May I say just a word as she's
Yeah.
moving? Just comments of commendation to our school's leadership, really. We think back over the ESSER dollars and all they had to do to
to try to get the budget in place, the efforts to be energy efficient and looking seriously at the staffing pattern, all those things, and obviously the tough decisions to close schools. Just want to say a word of commendations about that. I think it's very difficult because you're dealing with people, so many situations. So thanks for that. The question, going back to what Commissioner May raised in terms of this general services. So if you take a number of square feet, and I'm not very knowledgeable in this area of work, but I was over at our courthouse a few weeks ago, and to the public, there's a lot of work to be done, and for safety and security issues as well. I wonder if there is a model that would say if you have so many square feet, how many people do you need? How many FTEs do you need to adequately clean that many feet of building? Right. To help get us to what I think is something that maybe similar to what Commissioner May was mentioning, but that might help us because what we see there is very concerning and situation that really just has to be addressed. Yeah.
My thought on that, Drew and Commissioner Cozart, County Manager Commissioner Cozart, is there may be areas where we're understaffed. Yeah. Then there may be areas in which we need to re-examine whether or not we have too much staff doing certain things. So I don't know if the $50,000 a year type thing takes care of, but I think if you're going to go through the effort of looking at those things, and we're looking at the effort of our square footage that we have within all of our facilities right now, I think for future planning, it'd be it's kind of to me a wise approach.
Yeah. And to Commissioner Cozart's question or point, in a way, the RFP is kind of applying a more common methodology. I think we've sort of gotten our way through a not maybe super organized process, right, to dedicating, at least for the purposes of janitorial services, the resources that we do to these different facilities. And so the purpose of the RFP, part of the purpose of it is to sort of say, well, if we were to apply, accounting for levels of traffic and so on, if we were to apply more or less the same janitorial standard to all of these buildings, what would that look like, right? Right now, for example, we have, I don't know what the total square footage of the courthouse is. We have two part-time people, the equivalent of one full-time person. But if you think about the two major courtrooms, 16 bathrooms, hallways, stairwells, offices, it's too much for that number of people to keep up with. And I think the building shows that. And so this is us in an organized way trying to kind of understand what it would take to apply a more acceptable common standard for janitorial services across the board. So merit pay and benefits, and this is, this is slightly different than the investment in the class and comp study, right? Because even if we didn't do the class and comp study, we would still have the question of what can we do for employee pay and benefits. Will we have the revenue, for example? Will it be a high enough priority to continue our progression? We're now at 3% matching for 401k. Will we be able to go another percent with that? Will we be able to make at least a kind of do merit pay and or an equivalent kind of cost of living adjustment, a COLA adjustment? And we do have some additional, it's not huge, but some additional projected costs on the healthcare front. So that is an important kind of chunk of county priorities right there. And again, that would be there regardless of whether we do an organized class and comp study next year or not.
County Manager, what percentage of our employees take advantage of the 401k?
Good question. I don't know off the top of my head. It's actually been growing since our matching has been a little richer.
That would be something I'd like to know, maybe
we'll get
Friday.
That. Yep, we'll get that number for you. Good question. Any other questions on that one?
So when you plan for that 1%, do you set aside 1% within the budget, or that 1% within the budget, that is as if every employee is, or so you have it? Okay.
I believe it's calibrated for the uptake we expect.
Yes, that's kind of based on who's participating now.
Yeah, that's not an exact science, right? You kind of, the benefit becomes a little richer, and you have to wait and see how many people actually take you up on it. But we do some careful estimating there. Process funding. So this is not super specific at this point, right? But commissioners know, for example, that I have talked with you recently about kind of auditing our utility accounts, right? And setting up a centralized tracker and dashboard with the idea that, that we may be able to harvest some significant efficiencies out of that. That's an example that we don't have to do that, right? But it might be kind of a, my mom used to use the phrase, a stitch in time saves nine sort of comment, right? And so, you know, it's possible to spend a little money and save even more money than you spent, right? And that would be the goal for that kind of an activity, or any of a number of other examples. So I don't know that we'll ever get a total dollar figure attached to these. There may be a couple of specific proposals that are on the expansion list, but this is an area where I think on some level it's prudent for the county to maintain some level of resource, to have money available to invest in process improvements, equipment that will save us staff time or improve the level of service that we can give to citizens. Next slide, please. And is this the last one? I think this is the last one. Okay, school capital is another one, right? And obviously that's differentiated from current expense or operational funding. You all are aware that school capital funding has already gone from, in fiscal 23-24, a little over 1.5 million. The recommendation for next year per the Hawley agreement will be that number will be at 3.25 million. So it has already, or will have already, more than doubled. But even as I say that, right, a number of commissioners were on a tour of some of the Granville County Public Schools facilities in the last couple of weeks, and I think understand from that recent reminder the level of need that exists in some of the schools, and even doubling the funding may not be enough to achieve the results that we want to achieve. I'm not presupposing the answer to that question. I'm just saying that I know that is a need that's out there, and a need that will be and continue to be kind of brought forward by the schools. SROs is another school-related question. The county's investment in SRO function has increased pretty regularly. We've also been getting more money from the state, not as much as we would like, but more than we used to get. And so that's a good thing. We have municipal partners who have been investing further in our SROs. So I'm happy to report that we are approaching a number of SROs that would allow for an SRO in every school. There's always a next frontier, and you know, the next frontier may be, it might be more important for us to have 2 SROs at a high school than an SRO at, you know, every elementary school, for example, right? And so we may need to wrestle with, you know, the possibility of that mismatch, or what some people might think of as a mismatch, or further investment so that we can have the number of SROs that we think is most appropriate at each school. And so you are likely to see an expansion item, a kind of, not kind of that I'm necessarily recommending funding, but something to put out there for board discussion as a possible addition to the current funding.
I know you, go ahead.
how close are we to having all SROs at every school?
Quite close. David, I don't know if you want to comment quickly on that question, or the superintendent?
Probably better than with the closure of the campuses, we'll have as many SROs in the county as campuses, but the current plan is to put 2 in the high school, so it'd still be 2 campuses short.
So we're gonna be, we two campuses short, right?
If we double up at the high schools.
If you double up at the high schools.
That's right.
Okay.
I got a solution for that.
My thing is, let us get all the school covered, and then worry about the doubling up.
Is that taking into account Cradle that we think Oxford is going to fund next year?
Not yet. No, that's not taking that.
Board, we have been a strong proponent over the last, county manager, and I've had discussions with school board and others, municipalities as well. I think this is something that we can solve by our municipalities doing similar to what Creedmoor has done, where they've taken on an SRO and they funded an SRO. It's a when you have a school inside your jurisdiction, I think it brings great value to have the law enforcement agency that's within that jurisdiction to take on that. And so we applaud Creedmoor for doing it. We applaud the others for giving bodies to go that direction. But that's where I believe that we should strongly work on how we can fund as many as we can. But I think to accomplish this, where we get hit upside the head without providing enough money here or there, I think it's an opportunity where we can have really good dialogue with those city managers and their police chiefs and see how we can make this work for the county and the municipalities.
The municipalities that, did they have the schools in it?
Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, those a lot of those conversations have happened. I don't know that all of them have come to their final conclusion, right? Oxford seems to be moving at least to some degree. Butner provides one, but has it's grant funded, so they're not putting any local money into that, to my understanding. And I think those are the. Oh, and Creedmoor has got 3, one of which is county funded, and maybe
They have
2 of which are locally funded.
Yeah, they have 3 personnel working as school resource officers, if I'm correct. Creedmoor does, and they've actually have one of those 3 actually is fully funded by them.
Yeah. Okay.
Creedmoor's in District 5, by the way, Drew.
Yep. Got it. We won't, to keep ourselves on track, we're not going to spend a lot of time here taking ideas. But you're right in ideas. If you have an idea that you did not just hear about, that you would like to be further discussed, in terms of a potential county priority for next year's budget, David is going to send out, after we finish this evening, going to send out a note to each of you, or maybe during the retreat, so that commissioners have the opportunity to suggest additional ideas for consideration and for Friday's prioritization exercise. So this isn't just here are your choices, you must choose among them, right? If there are additional priorities that commissioners would like us to consider, you'll have the opportunity to propose that. Okay, I would like to keep us on a pretty tight schedule. Next up is our superintendent, Stan Winborn. Welcome. And do we have a mic for this one? Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Great job.
All right. Thank you. Sensitive. Okay. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see you all. Thank you, County Manager. Thank you, Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here today. I would like to recognize that I have 6 of the 7 Board of Education members with us in the audience today, including our chairwoman, Dr. Helen Lindsay, and Vice Chair, Ms. Ethel Anderson. I'd like to thank all of them for coming today, and I have a couple of members of our senior staff in attendance as well, and Ms. Vicki Hines, our Chief Finance Officer, who will be joining me for this presentation. But I really enjoyed listening to the very first part of your presentation. I think our presentation will dovetail nicely into what you shared, County Manager Cummings. But before I get into any of that, I want to thank you. First of all, just for our most recent visit on our high school campuses that many of you were able to join us with. I thought that was very enlightening. It was a great chance to just talk informally and spend some time together. But then also for our joint meeting that we had on January 27th that we hosted at the Mary Potter Center for Education. I thought that was another really wonderful opportunity for us to get together, have a little bit of fun, but also talk about these issues and really strengthen our relationships, because I truly believe that, we are in this together. I am committed to this partnership, and I know our board is as well. And we all want the same thing. We want our schools to be safe. We want our students achieving at high levels. And we want to prepare our children in our communities for a better future. And the main way that we do this is through our public schools, which I'm very proud of. And I thank you for your support. It means a lot. It truly does. So, before I start asking what we need, I'd like to share with you, remind you, and those who are in attendance and those who may be listening later, before we ask for help, we are looking inward and trying to help ourselves first. We're trying to be as efficient and fiscally responsible as possible. And I'm very proud of the work that we've done over the last year and a half in this effort. And these are just a few of the items that I wanted to point out. First of all is our zero-based budgeting that we've started. We're now in our 2nd year of that work. And essentially what this means is that we have asked all of our departments that instead of just taking the budget they had the year before and adding some numbers to that, status quo, business as usual, rinse, wash, repeat, we basically start over. We start at zero-based budgeting. And we ask our departments to build out what they think is essential and important and aligned to our strategic plan. Because if it's not in our plan, then we don't need to be doing it. And we've taken a really hard look at our budgets in this way. And I want to thank Ms. Hines for really leading this effort. She's pushed us all out of our comfort zone in this respect and forced us to take a hard look. And it's really been quite fruitful. We've saved, by conservative estimates, over $1 million of that spending that we've been able to reduce. And that's significant. And she's going to share some information about our overall budget, but this is more than 1% of our entire budget. Next, of course, is school consolidation. You'll hear us talk a lot about that today, but I am so proud of our board and the members who had served on the previous cycle as well. They took very difficult and courageous decisions in moving from 3 traditional high schools to 2, 3 traditional middle schools to 2. And we are going to see an annual recurring savings of $3 million per year, every year. It's not just a one-time savings. And that's very significant. Mr. Cummings also recently mentioned energy efficiency. You may be surprised to hear that in Granville County Public Schools, we have over 1 million square feet of heated and air-conditioned space. So our utility bills are somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 million a year, and that's for our electrical, gas, and water. And we've been doing some work trying to get our heads wrapped around how much we're using of each of these services at which campuses, and we now have a dashboard. We can monitor this in real time. And we've done some studies, and early indications are that we could cut this by as much as 30% with being smarter about how we use our utilities. In addition, we are exploring something called a performance contract, and I've already spoken with the county manager about this, and we're going to be having some more formal dives into what this is. But this is a government-approved arrangement by which you increase your efficiency with energy. Those savings then pay for debt service. And it's a guaranteed arrangement. Of course, you as the county commissioners would need to be our partners with this and sign on. But we could maybe generate as much as $5 to $7 to $8 million and pay that note off without any additional revenue. It would be, the note would be paid for with the guaranteed savings on our power bills. That money would then be used for much needed projects like upgrading our HVAC, fixing our roofs, replacing old windows, etc. So that's an area that we're looking at to try to go after this big capital need that we have without any extra burden on our taxpayers. So I'm looking forward to exploring that, and I'm glad Drew is with me on that. Lastly, another area that we're working on is grants. I just have one tagged up here. You referenced it earlier. This is the SRO grant that we received from the state this year. This is for 2 years, this school year and next school year. This is double what it was previously, so we're excited about that. We're awaiting a big school safety grant. We asked for $750,000 there. We haven't received word of that yet. But there are lots of other smaller amounts that we've been receiving lately related to technology. We got a grant in a partnership with the county library system where devices and wireless internet was provided. So we're always looking at that to try to help us as well. But today, what we're here to ask for, really, I hope will come as no surprise, especially since Drew outlined or touched on almost every one of them in his presentation. And these 4 priorities are continuation funds, safety and SROs, our local teacher supplement, and facilities and capital outlay. And we're going to go through these individually in a little bit more detail. Ms. Hines is going to walk us through some of the numbers so you can see the amounts that we're requesting in each of these areas. But before we do that, Ms. Hines is going to give you the broader context of our budget and how all this fits together, which I think will be helpful. Ms. Hines? It's just right, left.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Wimborne. Good evening, commissioners. Thank you, I almost forgot to go along. This should look very familiar to you. You just saw this at our joint meeting. It's just an overall review of our budget. And as we're talking about this, I think this is still a good piece of information to go over again. You can see in that chart to the left that our current year overall budget is just under $105 million. And you can see that over half of that funding comes from state funds. Just almost a quarter of it comes from you guys, from our local current expense. And of course, you can see our capital outlay is 5%. And again, so when we're going to dig a little deeper into our overall budget, but I want you to, we're looking at this big umbrella of $105 million as we move forward. When we look at categories of expenses, you can see the vast majority, 69% of our budget goes towards salaries and benefits. We are a people-oriented organization. So it would make sense that 69% goes towards salary and benefits. I just want to point out this transfers and other, this 5%, $5 million, that's focused on our transfers out to charter schools out of our local funds. And we'll dig into that a little deeper as well. This is a look at our budget by purpose, and this is how our budget resolution is approved. This top section that starts with the fives, that's our school-based instructional, those services. And you can see that 67% of our budget goes towards school-based instructional services, which makes sense. Due to the nature of our business. The second section is what we call the 6,000s. Those are district level support services. Now, folks sometimes get in their head that that's central office, and it's important to know that this is not all central office. If you take a look at that long blue line in the middle that says operational support, that's $16 million. That operational support is maintenance and custodial support and transportation and our bus drivers, everything that supports the infrastructure of our district. Then we get into the 7,000s. Those are our self-supporting programs, our after school, our child nutrition programs, and again, our 8,000s, which is our transfers that are required to charter schools, child nutrition, and indirect costs. We, of course, always want to take a look at our fund balance. I like to consider it our emergency fund. We started this year with a beginning fund balance of $5.8 million, and you are all well aware that we have allocated $4.1 million of that fund balance into this year's budget. So if we are to use that entire amount, we would end this year with approximately $1.7 million remaining in fund balance. That is about 2%, just over 2% of what we consider our larger operating funds. What's important to know is of that $4.1 million, we were not happy with that number in that budget, to say the least. So we have really dedicated a lot of time this year to decrease, and we have found a significant savings already in that, with some creative use of state funding and simply finding a little extra fat here and there. We're still digging. What's exciting about that to me is that we are going to be able to cover the costs of this consolidation this summer fully within the already appropriated fund balance, so that we won't have to pull any additional amount out of fund balance to cover those costs. Of course, of course.
Just another point on that, the costs related to consolidation, those include some of the moving expenses, some of the renovations, the changing of the plumbing fixtures, for example, smaller potties in our student bathrooms where we'll have younger children, those types of things. Some signage that needs to be changed, but we're trying to keep that to a minimum.
Thank you. So this chart takes a look at our overall Granville County students, and I want to emphasize Granville County students. These are not only district students. These are students who reside in Granville County who are enrolled in either district schools, that's the lower darker line, and then charter schools, that lighter line up top. You can see that we have just over 8,500 students enrolled in the district and in charter schools this year. 74% of them are in district schools, 26% are in charter schools. So why is this important? What's important about this is that the funding the county provides to Granville County schools, in effect, serves all of these students, because we have to break your local funding down into a per student or a per ADM amount. Yes, sir.
Could you remind us roughly how many charters in how many different funding follows them?
Absolutely. We are currently supporting, I believe it's 36 charter schools. We, of course, because we have a lot of neighbors with a lot of charter schools. We have two here, right here in Granville County, but because we are right next to Durham and Wake and Orange and Franklin, we are surrounded by a large number of charter school options for parents. Thank you. Of course.
And I don't know if you were about to say this, Ms. Hines, but I think it's also interesting to note the trend of school-age children overall. This line is relatively flat. Now, this does not include children that may be homeschooled or children that are enrolled in private schools, because we don't have access to that data. But for those that are concerned about the growth that's coming to our area and the school district's ability to serve them, the data is really not bearing out that there's going to be this large wave. And I know County Manager has shared with us some 5- and 10-year data that also shows it would be a relatively minor impact on our school district, and one that we could absorb with our current capacity.
Thank you. So part of looking at this is using this information to consider funding. So when Granville County Schools needs $1, we have to request from the county $1.35, an additional 35% of that funding. And that's because the funds that we receive from you all this year, we keep 74% of that because we have 74% of the students. The remaining funding is distributed to the charter schools. Your money follows the students of Granville County in district and charter schools. So as we move forward and you see our request, you'll see that breakdown of the district need versus the additional amount for charters and the total request.
And I might note that really, in effect, those 36 charter schools are sort of silent requesters of funding as well. They are not standing here with us today pleading their case because they automatically receive this money when we come to you. So that's just something to note. Yes, sir.
Does that include remote learning also?
There are several virtual charter schools, yes, and I believe we have children that are attending them.
Yes, we do. We have 3 virtual charter schools we send funding to. And that those numbers of those schools have increased recently, and the funding at one point the state had capped. They received about half the funding of the brick and mortar schools. However, now they receive full funding.
I would just like to add at this point, I certainly don't want anyone to think that I am, trying to denigrate charter schools. I think school choice ultimately is a good thing, but it is something that I want everyone to understand as part of how our funding model operates. It is something that we are connected to without really any choice. So, that's the point I want to make.
Thank you. So we're going to hop into our priorities. Dr. Winborn had mentioned the top 4 priorities earlier on in the presentation, and we're just going to jump right in. The first, this should be no surprise to you all. We present a continuation request every year. This is simply a request just to continue our operations as normal, as they currently are. It's a little different this year, however. We have to consider increases in state salary and benefits. That is typical. Inflationary increases, we look at that as well. What's exciting this year for us as we look at consolidation is that you might notice that this request is nearly half of what it's been in the last couple of years. And that's because of the savings with our consolidation efforts. So our increases for salary, benefits, and inflation, we are able to net that with the savings that we found with consolidation. So the Granville County Schools request is just at $279,000. The charter school portion, again, is an additional 35% at $97,000. So the total increase requested there would be just under $377,000. Please stop me if there are any questions along the way. The second priority I want to point out is safety and security. I want to point out that there's no dollar amount requested here because the request is simply what was referenced earlier, just continued support for the SRO program in the schools. We are very pleased that we were able to get an increased grant for SROs from DPI this year. And we will continue to make those additional requests as time goes on. As Dr. Wimborne mentioned, our goal is to have 12 SROs, and that includes 2 at each of the traditional high schools.
There was some questions about this earlier, and essentially our plan for next year is to have 2 SROs at each of our traditional high schools. There would be 4 elementary schools. 2 of each would share a school resource officer. And the reason we are doubling up in our high schools before we have 1 in every elementary school is because that is where the need is. That is where the support is needed, those high schools, especially with the consolidation process that we'll be going through. So we've been working closely with our SROs, Keith King, and our chiefs and the sheriff. Whenever we do these placements and come up with these plans, it's a group discussion. It's a collaborative effort. And I want to thank Dave for your help in all of that as well. It's been a very good arrangement this past year. And I want to just pause and thank our chiefs, our sheriff, and all of our SROs and the other officers who always come whenever they're called. It is a very high level of professionalism that we have, and something we should be really proud of as a community.
The third priority we have here, I want you to note, is listed there as a potential ask. And of course, this is something you're used to seeing from us as well, is asking for support with the local supplement for our teachers. In this case, specifically for our classroom-based teachers. If you remember, for 2 years, we were using fund balance to increase our local supplement for our classroom-based teachers. But that was a 2-year limit because that was the fund balance we had available. However, with some creative use of state funding, our state supplemental teacher compensation fund, we were able to continue that additional 2% this year. And our goal is to continue doing that. That is our preference, is just to continue doing it the way we've been doing it. As we mentioned at the joint meeting, with the counties moved up to Tier 3, I have to be conservative. I have to be cautious that if we lose access to our low wealth funding, that means we lose access to that state supplemental funding as well. So if we lose that funding, we would just ask that the county continue that support for that additional 2%. And again, that request, the district need to continue that is $576,000. In this case, if local was funding it, we would have to request an additional $201,000 for the charter schools. So that total request would be $777,000. We don't have the answer to that question yet, so I don't officially want to ask for that yet. We should know sometime in March. That's the word we're hearing from DPI right now. We should know in March what our low wealth funding looks like, and that will kind of indicate what our state supplemental fund looks like. But we'll definitely keep you informed.
Commissioners, this local supplement is so vital to us. We are really proud of the work recently with bringing down our vacancy rates. Our attrition has dropped significantly. We now are staffed pretty much except for single digits in our core classroom areas. If we were to go backwards in our local supplement and instead of providing 12%, we're only able to do 10, this would be a very tough pill for our people to swallow. And again, I'm hopeful that the state, we won't see a big shift because of our status, our tier 2 to tier 3 status. But this is something that I would place as a very high priority if we came up short in this area. But fingers crossed that it'll work out.
And then our final priority focuses on, last but not least, of course, is our facilities and capital outlay. Note that there are two parts to this request and no dollar amount assigned to it. The first part is simply continuing the supports that your CIP has put in place that you all have been discussing for our capital outlay contributions, and just not including, the state R&R money, the repair and renovation funds in that funding. The second part of this request focuses on just it's a request for you to consider a one-time allocation targeted to address those critical needs at JF Webb and South Granville High School. And I'll let you address.
Yeah, so again, going back to our recent visit at our two high school campuses, I think you all saw that there are some critical areas of need. I do want to, before I talk about that, I want to let you know that we have acted on the deficiencies related to cleanliness, especially at one of our campuses. We had teams of our staff go in this past weekend and have been working over the past couple of weeks to bring things back up to par. I was disappointed, and I heard you, and we have acted on it and brought correction. It's something we struggle with. I know you mentioned custodian issues, and we have a lot of custodian vacancies right now, but that's no excuse. But what you'll see here is just a possible menu. These are suggestions of projects that we think are of high need. This idea comes from our Board of Education Operations Committee, Finance Committee. As you know, just to give you an idea of the range of projects and the prices or the costs. Again, have been no bidding involved in these numbers. These are sort of spitballed, but we would love to work with you, have a conversation with the county manager, do walkthroughs, whatever, to try to brainstorm and see what could be accomplished. And again, this is a one-time injection of funds specifically for our two flagship traditional high schools, our anchor high schools in our two main communities. Happy to take any questions if you have them. Yes, sir.
Is this prioritized or just?
It's actually
just a group of things.
It's just a group of things. They're actually listed from least expensive to most expensive on that sheet. Some of them are very high visibility. You put a brand new roof on a school and you're not really going to see it. You'll see that it doesn't leak anymore, but it's not pretty. You know what I mean? Some of those things are high visibility, big curb appeal wins for the school. And some of them are focused on athletics. Others are focused sort of in the main front areas of the building. Parking lots, for example, huge need. Public bathrooms at the front of the school, those types of things.
My question was, the reason why I asked it was they prioritize. For years, I've been hearing about the tracks out there on our
desperate need.
Way up in South Granville.
Yes, sir.
You know, and anytime you can walk out there and see grass growing up through the tracks and in bad shape.
Yep.
And that's why I asked, was this in prioritized?
And again, we're happy to sit down and maybe, have some small group meetings or, work session with you, the direction of your county manager, whatever works best for you. I don't know if you want to try to determine a dollar amount and then make it match the project or vice versa. Again, if there are other things that you want to discuss, we're more than happy to do it. Yes.
Ms. Hines, going to go back to the $4.1 million that you have budgeted.
Yes,
Just
sir.
kind of walk me through. I can be slow sometimes.
Oh, you're good.
So you're going to use these funds are what you're going to use to consolidate the two schools. Is that over the next 2 years, 1 year? What length of time are you expecting that to take?
I hear you. I hear you. The 4.1 million is part of our current budget. And that was used, it was used for a variety of reasons. Number one, because our buildings aren't efficient right now. So we are expecting to see, as Dr. Wimborne mentioned before, we're expecting to see $3 million come off of the need for the use of that fund balance in that first year. What I mentioned before, and I wasn't clear, I apologize for that. While that 4.1 is in our budget right now, we've already found some savings.
Right. So that figure may be overstated.
Yes, exactly. But some of those savings, we were expecting to have to, pull some more fund balance to cover the cost, because we're anticipating costs of about $600,000 for consolidation, but we can easily cover that within that existing budget now.
How long do you see taking to build that fund balance back up?
Well, I mean, that's a very good question. Ideally, every year would be just a kind of a net.
Right.
That's ideal.
Right. Because it's funds that are coming from us, basically.
Yes, 100%.
Exactly.
It's our money.
Exactly.
Right.
We don't want to take
We
money
don't-
from the
we don't
county
need a
just to
lot.
put it in the
Right,
bank.
right.
Exactly. It would make me feel comfortable to have a little bit more of fund balance in there. However, it's important to note that we've had this significant fund balance because of those years of ESSER funding. We've just been able to put money in the bank for many years now. And so this is just recouping from that.
One more question about when we toured South Granville, there was appeared to be a lot of electrical needs. Now, I didn't see anything in here for the one time that we were told by Jack that if something were to happen, it could theoretically shut the school down.
Yes, sir. That's a great question. That's a very high priority need. But one thing to not lose sight of is the fact that if we follow the CIP projections, I believe, Mr. Cummings, you said it would 3.2 million, 3.25 for this coming year. That's a big increase from what we had been previously receiving. And we plan to use that money to take care of things like the electrical or, those other projects. But it's kind of a shell game. If you were to give us money for special projects, we either use that money or we use the other capital funds that you've already provided. But this may be an opportunity for you to earmark a special project that you want to highlight with the community. Not many people would see the repairs on the electrical panel. It's got to be done, and we're gonna have it near the top of our list. That's a great question, because that's in our plan to get that fixed.
Mr. Superintendent,
Yes, sir.
how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Please explain for me the 2% on the teacher supplement. What part of that is provided by the state? Is that percentage provided across the state? So like Wake County's got a supplement that's probably 20-some%, and their county gives so much. Does the state give a certain percentage to every county for supplement?
I'll let Ms. Hines talk about the details, but so thank you for that question, because for years, the county completely funded our local teacher supplement. And it had risen from 6 to 7 to 8 to then to 10. And then the school district unilaterally decided to use fund balance to take that from 10 to 12, the last 2 budget cycles. We're unable to do that again. But this school year, Ms. Hines was able to use those state funds to pay for that 2%. How that's distributed, I'll let her share.
Absolutely. This is a relatively new funding source, and when it, if you're familiar with how state funding works, you're a little antsy when it first starts because you don't know if this is going to be recurring. We found out at the end of the second cycle that this was indeed going to be recurring funding. And it's the fund is the state supplemental teacher compensation fund. And it is designed to support districts where the county is not able to increase the local supplement. This is exactly what the funding is designed for. And so we're taking advantage of it. The reason we didn't know about whether we were going to be able to do this at the beginning of the year is because there has been a large look at whether or not we would be supplanting state money, and you know how supplanting goes. So we've done the calculation, and the supplanting is not coming into play here. Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me, based on the sheet you provided for us, what is the total? What does this record? If you added all these up, what is the request?
I'm sorry, Commissioner, I did not do that math. But again, that was, I don't want you to think that's an exhaustive list. There could be other things. And again, we're happy to have conversations with you. This was an idea that was floated on Friday that we worked on over the weekend. And,
just kind of looking at it.
Yeah.
I see a lot of cost, but I don't see what the total would be.
Right.
I did some mental math over here while we were talking, and it's close to 17 million.
Yeah, and we're certainly not asking for that total amount. The idea was to provide a menu of choices, options. All of those are areas of need. We don't want to presume to know what additional funding you may have available or be willing to put toward this. So again, just trying to bring it to you as a conversation starter.
So finally up here, we have just a summary of those priorities and those requests. And we are here for your questions at your leisure. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. We do appreciate you.
One last question. Sorry, Karen. I'm getting too close to the mic. In the event, so if hypothetically, this is totally hypothetically, board hadn't discussed anything, but let's just say you like a block of money provided to you. How long does it take to complete this? Because prior to me becoming commissioner, a block of money was provided, and I think it's almost exhausted. And I think it was provided back in 2018, 17 timeframe. So I would think if the board made a decision to do something, and as to what, I don't know, but it would not be something that I think the board would want to have sit there and not be acted upon with vigor and aggressiveness as the cost of things continue to rise.
Commissioner May, I thank you for that remark, and I will acknowledge that it's been very frustrating to try to get projects accomplished. We have encountered unexpected red tape, in particular with the funding that you provided for the concession stand at JF Webb and the weight room at South Granville. That money was basically earmarked over 2 years ago, and we have yet to break ground. We don't even have permits yet, and so it's been maddening. And I share, and I'll take responsibility for that. I mean, it's something we need to do better at. But certainly we would act with.
Is the red tape within the county? So as to the $15 million, so I know where the red tape is involving the those projects because it's with DPI and the red tape there. But I'm more concerned about, is the red I think it'd be very frustrating as a board to make a commitment to only have something delayed.
Yeah, I agree. Fair, very fair statement.
Okay. Going back a few years, quite a few, probably before you were here, when we had the problem of mold in the schools. What's being done now on a continuing basis to address that and make sure we don't have that problem again?
Yes, sir. I thank you for asking that so I can share that with everyone. Ever since those mold problems occurred back in 2017-18, we monitor all of our campuses regularly. We hire a third-party laboratory to do random air samples on all of our campuses. We do that every spring when we do the transfer from heat to air conditioning. And then we also do random spot checks in the fall. And anytime there's a concern, if you see a ceiling tile that is stained or there's any suspicion or what may look like mold or mildew, we call, they come in, they do the testing. And then we also work with contractors to help do the remediation when we can't handle it ourselves. We post all of those results on our websites and make them available publicly, the reports. So anyone can look at those. Thank you. Yes, sir. I appreciate the question.
Mr. Chairman. Yes. Mayor, I just wanted to make just a general comment, and let me just say my appreciation for all this done for all of our kids in our school system. As I see Reverend Mills over there, I'm sure he would agree with me that, you know, the students we serve today, and I just took a peep at your continuation budget, there are a lot of children who are not classified as being exceptional children's program. I can appreciate the extra help needed from our staff. And I just want to say to you that whatever, you know, we need to do to provide for those students, sometimes there is no category that we put them in. It's just, some of it is really coming from a lot of ACEs, a lot of these adverse childhood experiences that many of our children have been through require something extra. And I just want to say that as you go through the budget process, I surely understand why we might have to do more for a large category, a large percent of our students. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Commissioner. If I may, just in closing to that point, I want to take this opportunity to thank all of the 900 plus employees, educators who work for our school district, and many of whom who live in Granville County, for everything they do for our children. We have some amazing, amazing people working in our schools every day. And, you know, I just continue to be impressed with their work and everything that they do. And I appreciate you all supporting them.
Great. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Mr. Superintendent. Thank you. Okay, we are doing well on time, maybe as well as I've ever done. Local government retreat, which I'm happy about. And next up, as they come up, I would like to welcome Amy Bason and Denise Steinagel, who are coming to us from the NCACC. Amy is the Deputy Director and General Counsel and has been in that role since for 14 years, is that correct?
Yes.
Good heavens. And she must have started when she was 17.
Oh, bless you.
15, 17. And also Denise Steinagel, who is our regional kind of rep, is the way I think of her. She is a retired county manager from Wilson County, and has just, she stops by periodically to see how we're doing, see what kinds of projects she can help us on, helps connect us at our conferences to sort of people who may be wrestling with similar kinds of problems that Granville County is wrestling with. Both of them and the organization as a whole are just a gigantic resource to Granville County. Sorry, my mic keeps dying. Granville County and all counties in the state. One thing I've been particularly impressed with over the past 4 or 5 months is the level of effort they have put into Helene recovery, lots of special meetings and conversations and helping to coordinate aid of various sorts making its way out to the western part of the state. So I appreciate both of them individually and the organization a great deal, and I'm grateful that they were able to make their trip up today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manager Cummings. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Chairperson, and to the commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity, and I would like to just take a quick moment to introduce the newest member of our team who has come with us as well. I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Quanisha Tabron. I am one of the new government relations managers for the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. I started over here in October, but I'm not new to the public policy process at all. I come from the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency, where I lobbied on their behalf for 5 years. And prior to that, I worked for the U.S. House of Representatives. So it's a pleasure to be here. I also want to acknowledge my grandparents that came out to support me. I usually give these presentations in Raleigh, and so since I'm here in the area, they've come out to say hello.
Yay. Okay, I have to say I'm so excited, and welcome. We are so excited to have you and so thrilled to have your granddaughter. Sorry, just like a little moment here, family time. When Quanisha we were putting this together and she was planning to join us and started telling us about her Granville County ties, we didn't realize how deeply they ran. So we are thrilled to have you with us today, and thank you for the opportunity. And thank you for that wonderful introduction. We really do appreciate the ability to be here today, and as Manager Cummings said, we really want to be a resource to you, and that is our goal. That is why we are here, and anything we can do for you, we are here for you. We will have a legislative update in just a few moments, but we did want to provide you with just a little bit more about the association, just for those who may not be familiar. You can see that we do work with all 100 counties and try to serve as a resource across the state so that you all can work together. And as we've discovered, and I know we've worked very closely with your county attorney as well, that there are very few new issues, opportunities, ideas, right? That so many things across the state have happened in another county at another time. So really joining us together as an association to come, I know we come to conferences together, meetings and training as an opportunity to just see perhaps where we can draw on resources from across the state. Just a reminder of a few of the things that we provide. We do have a debt set-off program that hopefully is returning some funds to your county that are owed from debts that are uncollected. Also recovering from EMS Medicaid program, our advocacy program, which you're going to hear an update from in just a few moments. And hopefully, I'm going to turn it over, I think, to Denise now, if you want to talk a little bit about some of the other opportunities through the association.
Okay. So, yeah, okay, so finish the slide too. I gotcha. We had to get this all together. We're so glad to be here. Thank you so much for allowing us. So, yeah, the association has amazing benefits, and we just always want to remember that to the county commissioners that it is your association. The benefits are there for you. Definitely the robust networking. Lots of opportunities for you to go and attend and talk to and meet your commissioners that are in surrounding counties to get ideas, to brainstorm, to ask things about, how they're dealing with different things. So we really think that's one of the great benefits, certainly I do, and we encourage you as commissioners to take advantage of those and to be a part of that. Definitely to engage with the General Assembly. We'll have our Advocacy Day coming up in just a few months, and we hope that all of you will attend and join us in Raleigh for that. Many opportunities to get involved. Conferences and events. Steering committees are available, so I know there's a few of you that have been a part of that and currently are, but we hope for any of you that are new and that you haven't been a part of those, that you'll identify one that has benefit. There's several of those. There's general and education and public safety, and find the one that you think that you can plug into and bring the most benefit, because we welcome and hope that you will do that. many interests in association leadership positions, shared county news, and then we also encourage everybody, for all you social media savvy folks, to follow us on social media. We're trying really hard to make sure that we put those, all the good things that we're doing and trying to put those out in all different formats. So we'll definitely do the traditional ways, but also want to be sure that for those that want to follow us on social media and see it, that aspect, that we've got a robust involvement there as well. Events and training, district meetings. I talked about County Advocacy Day, annual conference, which is coming up. We hope that you will all be there in Pitt County this year. Be sure to get that on your calendar. Your clerk will be getting with you as far as all of these that plan to attend, the August 21st and through the 23rd, and that is in Pitt County. It'll be a great event, great session, great opportunity for learning, and also a great opportunity for you to connect, like I said, with other commissioners in surrounding areas and just expand your network. We've got amazing resources, research and publications, the map book. So I did bring a few extra copies today, but I know Karina has, I dropped some off. If you, just all of your commissioners have those, or? Okay, because your deputy manager is amazing, and she makes sure that before you even get here that you got the map book. So I dropped those off several months ago. She knew that what you needed. We also distribute that at the annual meeting. So for those of you that go to Pitt County, the new and improved one will be available. Denise Canada with our office does that. It's just an excellent source of information. And I found as a county manager, it was very, very helpful for me. Probably one of the best resources that we put out there. Just a way to, you know, you kind of want to see how you're doing and kind of compare yourself to those in the surrounding areas and see what you're doing good at and maybe what you can do better, and then sometimes wonder, like, wow, how did they do that? So I found it to be a phenomenal resource, and I hope you do as well. The weekly update, which comes out every Friday, but you should all be getting that in your emails. So that's just a really good synopsis of all things that have been going on and also the things that are going forward. 100 Strong Production, those are also, most recently, we completed a video on workforce, different generational peaks in the workforce. Excellent. And then, of course, the County Quarterly as well. So you should be getting that. The Granville County Demographic Highlights. I've brought those today. I'll distribute those. This comes directly from your map book, but it's just kind of overview of the stuff that's going on, or specifically in Granville County. And all of the data that's here goes back. So if you're trying to see where it came from, it is in the map book. And then the map book, it clarifies exactly where the data came from. Because sometimes there's some different data that's out there, but you can always trace it back to where it came from. Thank you. Opioid settlement technical assistant for the OSTAT. 1,700 assists to counties on opiate settlement matters since August 23, which is incredible. You all received the opioid settlement funds, and then the General Assembly thought enough of our association to actually make an appropriation as well. So we've got an amazing team. The summit in Wake County, well, it's there for all of our folks in the state of North Carolina, but what I think is so fascinating that there's folks from out of our state that are coming here to North Carolina that's led by our association team members to learn about this, because we are kind of viewed in the country that we've got it going on. And so it is really, it's flattering when folks are coming from other states to kind of figure out what North Carolina is doing and how we do it really well. The important thing for all of you to know is that team is available to work with your staff, to work with you as you figure out and go forward about how to use those opioid funds. We encourage you, if you're not already using those, to certainly reach out. It's a great team, and they will work with your staff and anything that they can do to support. Helene Recovery Technical Assistance. Strategic Project Coordinator Program. You guys have had at least one that's been in this county that's helped with that, maybe two even. Again, a great resource. Our General Assembly made some fundings from some of the ARPA dollars, and your association said there's no better place than this to be than to go into our county. So this is a way to create a pipeline for folks that can learn about counties and then hopefully go to work with counties. Many of those have been placed in counties. I think maybe one went to a municipality, but we won't count that against them. But still a really great resource for not only for our counties to get capacity and have somebody come and assist them, but also for the folks. And these are MP graduates. These are not interns. These are professional folks that graduated with an MPA program that can come and jump right in and help with projects and things that our counties need to provide the services to their citizens. Outreach team of retired county managers, that is me. While I'm here, certainly glad to be in Granville County. I serve 25 counties and love to come to Granville County. You guys got an amazing team of managers that work really hard here. But anything that I can do to assist, let us know. We're glad to do that. And also, we've got several that are retired finance officers that are available to go in and work with your finance officers or your managers and provide some capacity and support in the best that we can. And then also the ARPA technical assistance. Well, ARPA is kind of winding down at this point, but that has been a phenomenal resource for just the technical piece. So we all had ARPA money, and for some it was easy to figure out how to spend it, for some not. But the important thing is that we had technical assistance that was able to support you, make sure reports got done on time, be sure that everything was done correctly, and in the end, be sure that what you spent it for, whatever it was that was best for your citizen, that was done correctly, and will be good for any audits going forward. And then finally, is this one you, I think?
Thank you, Denise. And really, we're sharing all this just to make sure that you understand all the resources that are available to you. All these resources that we're sharing, these are a part of your membership. So this is not, they're not additional costs incurred. And as you just heard from Denise, there's a tremendous amount of technical assistance with the federal funds that are coming in around the opioid space, as the ARPA funds are coming in and winding down, with our western counties in particular around Hurricane Helene as well. And just a reminder that you all are a member of the risk pools with the association. So your workers' compensation and liability and property insurance, which we find is one of those things that you really don't think about until you need it, but want to remind you that we have a tremendous amount of resources in that space as a part of your membership, including we have an employment law helpline. So if you have issues in the employment law space that may create claims down the road, you can reach out and get help up front before something comes in that space. So a lot of these are preventative and making sure that you have the resources you need up front. We just provide you with all of this to remind you that we are here as a resource for anything that you need. And one last thing that I'm excited to tell you about is every year our president, this year our President T. Davis from Warren County, they have a presidential initiative. And this year is around it's called Heroic Hands, and it's around celebrating the tremendous folks who work in county government. So you're going to be hearing from the association to recognize an individual who's working for the county to celebrate them. And this is going to be done all across the state to celebrate the tremendous work of county employees. So we really appreciate all that you do and all that the folks who work for you do. So now, without further ado, I know that you have your state senator and representative coming a little bit later after dinner, after you had a chance to eat and relax and reflect. So we're hopefully going to provide you with some information that'll help to inform you about what's going on, perhaps ask them some questions, and this will help guide that conversation perhaps as well. Did want to share with you the team because it is new for those of you who know the folks who've been on our team and are familiar with. We had Amber Harris, who had been our Director of Government Relations, miss her and are excited for her opportunity. For those who know, she has gone to work at the governor's office, so she will still be in government and she will be a great resource for us there. We have just, so fresh off the press is this announcement that we don't yet have her picture, but we have just hired our new director, and her name is Joy Hicks, and she comes from working in the Speaker's office at the General Assembly, has a wealth and breadth of work across state and local government. So she is with us just, I think, a week. So she really is brand new. You've already met Quanisha, who you're going to hear from in just a moment, and also Andrew Blackburn and Lucy Campbell round out our team. So we have a really strong team of boots on the ground down at the General Assembly to hopefully help you as a county and help to advocate for counties across the state. So as you heard, we have been doing quite a bit in the Helene recovery space. So fortunate as we were coming here and looking through that Granville was not one of the counties that was directly impacted, but we know that there are disasters and things that occur all the time, and that we want to make sure that you know that while this is where we are working right now, we are available whenever something strikes as an association to help. So as we get into the legislation, legislative update. I'm going to just begin here, and then I'm going to pass it over to Quanisha to you're going to really get her expertise in what's been happening in this space and others. So you will see after the disaster hit and the disaster was declared, there have been several packages, basically 3 packages of disaster relief. The first one that you see before you was a $273 million relief package. It was the initial package to kind of out of the gate get some funds out there to help with the initial issues that were being faced by our western counties. And I will say, as an association, we pulled together pretty quickly in November a convening with state, federal, and local leaders and those counties to come together and share what they were facing. And we just this past week on February 11th had a follow-up convening. So we're continuing to try to bring those counties together to share best practices, needs, and work together so that their needs can be heard by our local, state, and federally elected leaders. And you can see there were also some other regulatory and statutory reliefs as a part of that, but now I am going to pass it over to Quanisha to move into some more of the details that have happened as we move through and into this legislative session.
Okay, so included in the Disaster Recovery Act of 2024, Part 2 was $604 million for various needs, including $122 million for the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. $100 million was given to the Local Governments Commission for cash flow loans, and $50 million to Golden Leaf to make bridge loans to qualifying businesses in economic distress as a result of the hurricane. There were a few other regulatory relief provisions that were included in the bill as well. Make sure I'm pressing this right. So also included in that package was $227 million from the Savings Reserve to the Helene Fund, $2 million appropriated for disaster funds and non-recurring funds to the Department of Ag. It also creates a few time-limited positions for water conservation and soil conservation as well. $25 million from the SERDIF to the Helene Fund to the Department of Agriculture for stream flow rehab programs, in other words, debris removal. It requires the Sedimentation Control Commission, which is a division within DEQ, or a local government that administers a delegated erosion and sedimentation control program, to waive the requirement that people conducting land disturbing activity in the affected area file an erosion or sedimentation control plan for approval of the agency with it's a lot of technicality, so I have to make sure I'm actually reading what it says because I don't want to say it wrong. But it also prevents local governments in the affected area from enforcing any ordinance regulating the removal, replacement, or preservation of trees on private property, including tree removal, trimming, or maintenance activities. It also has a provision related to health departments, and it prevents them from denying a homeowner in an affected area the right to connect temporary housing to a wastewater treatment system. And all of these provisions, for the most part, have a sunset associated with them because it's purely a part of disaster response. There were a few provisions included in the disaster recovery bill that was passed last year that have non-disaster recovery related implications. So I've called out a few that might be of interest to you all as county commissioners. The first one being changes in how ballots are counted. I really want you to, I'm not sure if there's a pointer on this, but what I want you guys to pay, oh, there is a pointer. I might not be using it the best. But what I want to point out is how the time period that you guys have to count ballots has been condensed down to a 3-day period. We've heard from several counties that this is going to be an issue because counties do not have the staffing capacity to meet these new deadlines. The Association of County Commissioners has been working very hard to see if we can get at least renegotiate some terms, but I think it would be helpful if state legislators heard from county commissioners directly on this issue. Another big issue that has been trending and continues to trend to this day are downzoning changes that were included. So basically, there was a provision within that disaster relief package last year that not only amends the definition of downzoning, but it preempts local government's ability to downzone. This is particularly problematic because counties as well as municipalities have economic development plans that they've invested a lot of money into that have rezoning as a part of it. And this particular provision is retroactive 180 days. So it would undo everything that certain local governments have been working on. Again, we've heard from several counties about this issue, and we're working hard to get this repealed. I do have, I think, a pretty positive update to report on this a little bit later in the presentation. Oh, this is for you.
Okay. Thank you. And as we do have more later from Quanisha, but at this point, as we go into the landscape, if there are any questions at this point, I would just ask. Question? Yeah, Commissioner Day.
Is there any funding with downsizing that dam from 5 to 3? Is there any money coming back to the counties for that election?
That is an unfunded mandate, which is why we are working so hard to kind of see if we can renegotiate that. As I'm sure you're aware, that is a hot button issue. And so that is why I implore county commissioners themselves to call their state legislators to voice their concerns about this. We're hearing from counties of varying sizes, including a county as big as Wake County and Mecklenburg County, that they won't have the capacity to meet those deadlines. So I'm sure it will be burdensome for Granville as well.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions? Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Jay. Excellent question. And as part of our association goals and principles, one of those is to oppose unfunded mandates. Yes. And you've hit the nail on the head there. And that was, fortunately, we have such a good team who's really monitoring, because, again, that was a provision that was a part of the disaster relief package, so it was an addition. So we are just, from a legislative standpoint, now I'm going to get into kind of the legislative landscape, as the slide says. But we are in a bit of an interesting space, because the way, as most of you probably recall, right, the General Assembly comes in for a 2-session, it's a biennium. So they come in, we're in currently in the long session. So it's a 2-year biennium, in which the idea is that they come in the long session, they pass a budget for 2 years, and then they come in the second year in a short session to just kind of tweak the budget. But we have discovered over the past several years that there really is not much of a short session. Would you agree with that? It's no such thing. Yeah. So it seems like there is, even though we're just starting the long session, there's already, as you can see, quite a bit of work that has been done and quite a bit of things to monitor. So to that end, you will see that we do have quite a strong presence of former county commissioners in the General Assembly. We do have 34 former commissioners, 24 in the House and 10 in the Senate. And we do have at the General Assembly, they have what are called recognized caucuses, and we have a recognized county caucus, which means that this is a group that is allowed to meet together of former county commissioners, so that our advocacy boots on the ground can get them together and talk about issues that impact counties and looking at through that lens. So that is something that we will be constituting here soon, and having a meeting with them to talk through issues through that county commissioner, former county commissioner lens. And one thing that did change in this past election, you will see that prior to this past election, there was a veto-proof majority in both the House and the Senate. Now the Republicans hold a veto-proof majority in the Senate, but they're 1 vote shy in the House. So that is going to create a lot of back and forth, a lot of contention, a lot of discussion and opportunities, because we don't have, it's a very close margin, but we no longer have the veto-proof majority. And what that means, right, is that if a bill goes to the governor and is vetoed, if there's a veto-proof majority, essentially they have the votes to override. Just for your edification. So you will see where we are. This was an election of a lot of changes. As you know, we have a new governor, Governor Josh Stein, and the House in the Senate Pro Tem Phil Berger from Rockingham County remains the same. He's been in Senate leadership for quite a while. We do have this year a new Speaker of the House. So the former Speaker of the House, Tim Moore, is now a congressman up in D.C., and the new Speaker of the House from Caldwell County is Destin Hall. So there'll be some change in leadership in the State House. Also some changes. We have a new Lieutenant Governor, Rachel Hunt, a new Attorney General, Jeff Jackson. That's particularly significant for counties because you heard about the opioid settlement funds. So for those opioid settlement funds that have come into your county and you're going to be getting over 18 years, it's through the Attorney General's office that they are monitored, and compliance with a memorandum of agreement that you work with will be upheld. So we'll be working very closely with the Attorney General's office. A lot of the staff that we've worked with previously is still there. So from that standpoint, that is a good thing because we have worked closely in terms of ensuring that counties are getting the most and best information they need for use of those opioid settlement funds. There's also a new state treasurer, and I would argue that's one of the most significant Council of State positions when it comes to our counties. As you know, the LGC, or the Local Government Commission, is through which any borrowing of funds has to be approved. And so we're very pleased that we've already developed a relationship with the state treasurer. In fact, he came and spoke at our NCACC board meeting that we had just a few weeks ago. And we're working very closely with him around a loan program with Helene Recovery. So as questions arise, as things are coming up with the LGC or other issues out of the treasurer's office, let us know, because we are really working to build and foster that relationship. And again, a new superintendent of public instruction, Mo Green. And then we have our stalwarts. We have Secretary of State Elaine Marshall and Commissioner of Agriculture Steve Troxler, who have been around since I was 17 when I started. Thanks, probably a lot before that. Yeah. So that rounds out our Council of State. And I'm sorry, we have a few more. I apologize. We also have a new state auditor, commissioner of labor, and then the commissioner of insurance remains. So I just wanted to give you an idea of what that landscape looks like. One other piece of elections landscape that is still out there and yet to be resolved, which you may have heard or read about. There is a judicial race. The Supreme Court, with the incumbent Justice Allison Riggs, after recounts were done, was leading by a small margin. And then her challenger, Jefferson Griffin, has challenged, I think it's about 60,000 votes. Is that correct? Yeah, I think. Gone through the federal court. They've kicked it back to the state court. So right now we're still waiting to see what's going to happen in that space. It will not impact. There is a Republican majority on the state Supreme Court, but this would just impact the margin of which that exists. So that is one other piece that remains to be seen, and hopefully soon we'll have some resolve to that. Yes.
Any other races in the state joined that lawsuit?
Yeah, great question. No, and what I imagine you're thinking, right, is that, well, if those votes are deemed to be invalid, what does that mean where they were cast elsewhere, right? Great question, and that's like one of those kind of law school problems. I'm looking over to your county attorney, and he's not looking up because he doesn't. No. But it's one of those kind of conundrum questions, right? No, they are, at this point, it is specific to those races, but it does raise those questions of what does that mean? And way smarter and more qualified people than I can opine on that. But I will just acknowledge that is a very interesting question that you raise. So. Yeah. So, but thank you. Good question. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Quanisha to talk about what we likely may see as we move ahead into session.
So likely major issues as we move into the long session this year. Disaster relief and recovery are obviously top of mind. Everyone is focused on Hurricane Helene. County reappraisals and increased assessed values are a major issue. We're already seeing lots and lots of bills filed around this topic. Casinos, school vouchers, and public education funding will continue to be an issue. Downzoning, extraterritorial jurisdictions, and other housing issues will continue sort of percolating, medical marijuana and taxes. So at NCACC, as I'm sure you all are aware, all 100 counties vote on a legislative agenda. There's usually roughly anywhere between like 30 to 40 legislative goals, and these are the top 5 issues that were voted on by all 100 counties last year. So the first one is supporting legislation to promote not just teacher pay, but pay for school administrative staff in general. Secondly, seeking legislation to repeal mandates that mandate counties to exclude 80% of the appraised value of solar energy projects. Also, seeking legislation to provide increased recurring state funding in keeping with comparable sales and farmland preservation initiatives and additional flexibility to counties related to farmland preservation. I'm going to come back to that one because we've got some progress on there. Our fourth priority is seeking legislation expanding state funding to provide essential medical, mental health, substance use disorders, and social services to persons incarcerated in local detention facilities. And last but not least, our fifth priority is seeking governmental funding to assist counties that have limited resources with construction of critical facilities.
Those critical facilities, that includes county facilities, that includes schools?
That is a great question. Do you have any insight about that?
Yeah, oh, sorry, yeah, let's go back. We'll go back.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, that does include local, but yes. Short answer is yes. I mean, I think it was deliberately left broad so that we could seek funding in any space in that way, yes.
And there's gonna be more medical, they looked at more medical centers for mental facilities.
Great. So I think that is an issue that we are definitely going to be facing this session with regard to the decrease in the number of LME-MCOs, right? And then we have the looking at, consolidation, potential privatization, and where that is going to land. And we as an association have been talking a lot about this. Is unfortunately, I think there's going to be a lot that's going to be left for the counties to have to handle. Mm-hmm. So really in this space, right? I mean, not directly, but this is what we're afraid is going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. So we are having a lot of conversations in this space to ensure that the General Assembly understands implications of privatizing and other consolidation.
So, legislation of interest to date. This first one, HB 9, is exactly what it sounds like. It preempts local governments from regulating sport gun ranges. Nothing fancy or hidden there. That's pretty obvious. HB 24 is in response to the Disaster Recovery Bill Part 3 that included that preemption as far as downzoning is concerned. So I'm pleased to report that the House chamber has filed a bill for a full repeal. On the Senate side, however, there has not been a bill filed for a full repeal, but there's been several senators that have filed bills to exempt their counties from that provision. And I guess let me walk it back a little bit to make sure that we all understand what the issue is. So, okay, thank you. So that downzoning provision that was included in a bill from last year basically said that local governments would no longer have the ability to downzone without consent, written consent of every property owner that would be affected by that rezoning. That's simply impractical. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. So this basically would do would offer a full repeal to give local governments the authority to downzone as they had before. On the Senate side, like I said, there's been several bills filed to exempt certain counties from that. And what that says to me is that there's appetite, if you will, for a full repeal. But our understanding is that some of the contention is at leadership level. What I can say is that I feel great about this because we have a working group of city attorneys and county attorneys that have provided amendment language to Senate leadership so that if we cannot get a full repeal, we can at least get something that we can live with. My understanding is that language has gone to bill drafting, and so I could hear something potentially later this week about a bill being filed. I'm also hearing that it may end up going into conference with a budget bill, so we shall see. There's also been HB 59, which is elderly disabled property tax homestead exclusion. It makes it so that the greater of $25,000 or 50% of people's property taxes who are 65 years old and up, or 80% of the area median income and have owned their property for 15 or more years, would be excluded from property tax.
So is the state saying now that you're elderly at age 65? I just want clarification.
Yes.
They're saying it, not me.
Yes, we are just the messengers. Not yes.
Yes. But we know this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we get a little clarification on that? And that's elderly and disabled property tax homestead exclusion. Greater of $25,000. That means you get either $25,000 or 50% off. Is that correct?
That is correct.
If you're 65 years and older, and you also have to, or if you have 80% of the income and you've owned it for 15 plus years.
So think of the last part of this sentence as an and. You have to be over 65 years old.
And, okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, that cleared it up for me. I'm a little slow sometimes, you know.
No problem. I know that,
You filling that case.
so I know that this homestead exclusion is kind of like a tricky situation for county commissioners because property taxes are a revenue source for you all. And so I'm pleased to report that we are being proactive. Denise Canada as well as David Baker are working very hard to come up with some language that would meet our legislative goals and protect your revenue source as county commissioners, but will also meet the needs of the people that you all represent. It's a sticky situation, and so we're doing our best. I think I'm safe to say that I don't believe at this point that this bill will grow legs and, continue to move. So think of this slide as just for your awareness. School calendar flexibility is also one of our legislative goals. On the House side, there's been a school calendar flexibility bill that would make it applicable to all 100 counties and give them flexibility. There's been a companion bill filed on the Senate side. I know the titles look different, but the bill text was exactly the same. So I consider them to be companion bills. And then same thing for revising voluntary agricultural district laws. There's been a Senate bill filed as well as a House companion. So our staff has been working really hard and actually provided the language for that bill. Lastly, the House Bill 47, which is the Disaster Recovery Act of 2025, Part 1, is definitely of interest to our work, and I'm gonna go into a deeper dive of what all that package entails. So that package is in total $500 million. It includes money for housing recovery, streams and farms, replacing private roads and bridges, debris removal that's not covered by FEMA, money for volunteer organizations and fire departments. It also has a couple of policy changes as well. I know that certain county governments that have been affected by this disaster are really pushing for the $100 million for the revenue replacement program that was created in the last disaster recovery bill. They would like to see that be deemed as forgivable loans. That was a discussion as a part of that was a part of the discussion when this bill was heard in committee. So it seems like there's political appetite to make those loans forgivable, but they did say that if they were to do so, it would be taken up in a separate bill. So other Helene related requests. So we have been engaging with our Congress about this. We've also been talking with the governor and being proactive in this. So Congress currently has a bill called Restoring Access to Mountain Homes Act that will address the need for private roads and bridges and repairing those. It also includes the Disaster Assistance Fairness Act is another bill that could be helpful, as well as a bill for LA wildfires. That's just a part of the disaster recovery conversation happening overall at the federal level. Governor Stein did request $1 billion from Congress to address Helene recovery. That included business recovery grants, local government revenue replacement grants, housing recovery, farming assistance, things of that nature. And that will conclude the legislative update. Do you guys have any questions?
I'm not sure if it's a question or a comment, but I believe the legislature has already passed a bill to lower the income tax from 4.5 to 4.25, which per average worker in the state of North Carolina is a deduction of $131 a year. Collectively, it's $1.25 billion. Is there any appetite in the Senate or in the House to delay that or postpone it, to use those funds for disaster relief, teacher increase in pay? What's y'all's take on that?
That's a great question. As of right now, I haven't heard any conversation around that. Right now, everybody is really focused on Helene to the degree that it's been rumored that if you're not talking about Helene right now, it might not get addressed just yet. Maybe later on in the session, but not right now.
My point would be,
Yeah.
that's $1.25 billion right there.
Mm-hmm.
And you could just maybe delay it a couple of years.
I think that's unlikely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think and I think that would be I think that's a highly unlikely change
Scenario.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other questions?
I want to say a couple of things by way of saying a good, broad thank you to these three people. First of all, I wanted to apologize for not seeing in the slides that Quanisha was a part of the presenting crew, and I'm especially happy because her grandparents were able to make it today. I have a hard time picturing myself being a relatively new employee somewhere giving a PowerPoint in front of my grandparents, among others, but I thought you did a great job.
Thank you.
And
Thanks.
I also want to say how encouraging it is to see retired county managers coming back for more. I think it's sort of indicative of the kind of people who go into this line of work. They really love the work. It's important to them. If it weren't, they wouldn't be there doing it, because it is hard work as well. But I appreciate the existence of these sort of sage advisors who make the rounds and make sure that the younger folks are towing the line and doing what they need to and getting the help that they need to get. So thank you to all three of you. Really grateful that you made the trip up today. Also just wanted to observe that of the 5 kind of main legislative priorities of the NCAC, there's a lot of overlap with things that are very important to this county commission and this county. And so we look forward to working with you on those, and we will wish all of ourselves communal luck, kind of, making progress on those fronts, because they're very much legislative issues that have a lot of bearing on our health and well-being here in Granville County. So, and commissioners, any last questions for the NCACC staff?
Just one. The homestead tax exemption, I wish that would get legs. Not because I'm 70, But because we have so many elderly people in our county that have family farms and they're struggling to pay taxes and they're struggling to hold on to their homes and their land. And we can't do it at the county level. It has to be done at state legislature level. And just, I would hope that we could get some force behind that and get that going.
Yeah, it's on our legislative agenda to seek some legislation to address the homestead exemptions. So, as I said, our staff is working really hard with some legislators to come up with a remedy that will both address the burden that constituents feel, but also kind of protect the revenue source that you all have.
And thank you, and thank you all for coming here. Is there anything else, Drew?
I just wanted to give Clerk to the Board, Karen Evans, a chance to kind of offer some dinner instructions before we break. Karen?
It's exciting to see such a full house. Thank you all for coming. We do have dinner being catered by Bigfoot Barbecue. It is located, operating out of Angel Wings Bookstore, formerly known as Harvest, where Harvest used to be. There is enough for everyone, so please partake. And after, I am sure one of our commissioners will deliver grace.
Yes.
We may eat.
And
You as well.
I want to especially invite you guys to join us and spend some time with your granddaughter. Thank you.
And if you've not been here before, the restrooms are just straight down the hall, so past the food and go through the double doors, and the restrooms are on the right. But the food is in the hallway.
Yeah. If I may, I'd like to call on Commissioner Cozart to bless the food for us, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May we bow. Lord God Almighty, we thank you so much for this day and for all of your blessings. God, we're thankful for our county and all of our people. Continue to look down upon us with favor. And now as we prepare to eat of your food, we first of all want to say thank you for it. May you sanctify it to the nourishment of our bodies so we may glorify you through our work. It is in your holy and righteous name that we pray. Amen.
We're back in session. Want to thank everybody that stayed. We appreciate you enjoying dinner with us and great conversation. I think we've all enjoyed it. At this time, we're supposed to have introductions and legislative update by Senator Terrence Everett, District 18, and Representative Brian Kahn, District 32. Do you have any updates?
Just that both of them have indicated kind of at the last minute they're not able to make it this evening. So they send their regrets, and unfortunately we won't have those updates this evening. So I think, Mr. Chair, maybe we can move directly into the municipal presentations if those folks are ready.
All right. We'll move right on to our updates from our municipalities, and we'll start up first with the City of Oxford.
Well, that's good. Again, I'm Mayor Nurse, City Manager Mr. Taylor. Thank you very much for having us here, as always. And what a wonderful day. Good before the snow, so that's good. Good. For me, a year has come a long way. I've met just with every one of the commissioners. We've been to a lot of events together, and I think we're moving in a better direction. That's what I'm told. At least that's what they tell me when we're together. And Bobby told me that last week, so we're doing good. So thank you very much. So I want to start with respect. Our citizens are our most valuable resource, and unity is our community's greatest asset. We value our diverse backgrounds, cultures, and experiences. We believe each unique individual gives our community depth, character, and makes us stronger. Unify. Integrity drives our decisions, and each is grounded in the principle of shared success, responsible citizenship, peace, and community prosperity. Achieve. We strive to support every citizen in reaching their full potential personally, professionally, and economically. Executive leadership values our citizens' input and wisdom in setting lofty, achievable goals. Together, we will design and build a beautiful city of peace, health, and economic abundance, committed to responsible planning, financial integrity, transparent communication, accountable reporting, and the focused achievements. We will succeed. One thing I said, beautiful city, I should have said beautiful county. We are a family. We are one, no matter what municipality we are. When I feel, when I move around, I feel we go as one. I travel a lot, and I always talk about Granville County and how we work in this county, because we're going to be the county of the future here. We're just one big tree, and we all branches. Staff, we have 110 approved positions. The police department consists of 31. Their fire 14. Public Works is 20, Water, Sewer, and Billing 21, Administration 19, Parks and Recreation 6. Overall budget, you see it, our general fund. The general fund is comprised of police, fire, parks, and recreation administration, public works, governing bodies, sanitation, and other non-utility functions of government. Our water and sewer fund. Water and sewer fund includes water, distribution, billing, and sewer, collections, and treatment. For stormwater fund, debt service, power bill, it's all on here. As you may see, a breakdown of our general fund. Our public safety is at 42%, public works is at 24%, cultural rec 10%, planning 7%, admin 15%, other 2%. I'm going too fast, please tell me. Our fire department. The fire department performed 516 inspections, new plans, reviews, annual, and re-inspection. Hosted 1,823 participants in fire prevention programs. Participating in 3,970 cumulative training hours. Tested 213 fire hydrants. Made 100 home visits and installed 67 smoke detectors. Completed 508 fire safety compliance inspections. Certified a new fire inspection, fire instructors, fire investigative technical instructors. Conducted a fire brigade training for multiple industries. Participated in numerous city and community events. Sent a firefighter to assist with Western North Carolina disaster. One thing I noticed right after that disaster, it was not just Oxford. Every fire in the district, in the county, was out there in front of the fire department, and we loaded up. I took one day with them. We loaded up maybe 4 or 5 containers, but I saw the teamwork these firefighters have, and they all work together. To the extent I'm going to share a little information that we're working on in Oxford, I got contacted by a couple countries in Central America that saw our district, saw the county, and the training we do, and they want our guys to start training their firefighters, similar like Morrisville doing Honduras and Guatemala. And the approach we are taking is that every fire district, every fire chief would like them to take part in this and be part of this effort that would lead Granville, show Granville that we're as good as any other county in the state. Future plans are to construct a public safety center to include fires substation, police department headquarters, and emergency operations center. Our plan is to build this public safety center, and we would like to include EMS and ambulance on there. So when we get to that point, we will come back and say, county, let's work together, because I think the county needs it, and we should be able to do that together as a team. Our police department. Last year, the department vital statistics responded to 12,975 calls for service. Issued 1,056 traffic citations. I was one of them. Made 57 arrests. Responded to 293 accidents. Most of our 2024 vital crime categories decreased from 2023. The department is involved in numerous community outreach programs such as National Night Out, Masonic Homecoming, special events including Hot Sauce Festival. Additionally, the fire and the police department is heavily participating in the homeless situation, especially on these cold nights. They go out and we get calls and we go out and respond. And like I said, I got a ticket there. A new guy, I think it was the first hour he was in the station, and I pulled up and he pulled right behind me. Lights on. I said, oh, he's going somewhere. No, he came right behind me. So let me see your driver's license. Did not know I was the mayor. So I let him, go ahead, give me the ticket.
So did you pay it?
Did I pay him?
No, did you pay the ticket?
Don't ask me that question. How many tickets you've had? Economic development. I don't know those words. You or your brother. Engage in new economic development strategies, business recruitment strategy and plan, improve our business recruitment and incentive program, building business inventory lists, affiliated with Main Street Program, a national organization committed to the revitalization of downtown. Downtown's economic vitality, promotion, organization, design, community-wide and downtown branding completed. You'll see our logo is changing. Go online, our logo is changing. You see our branding. We're going to do our street signs and we get all that done. And some of our signs, you know, it's been around here maybe as long as Rob, but downtown beautification appearance, special events, downtown master plan update. Hot Sauce Festival became a 2-day event, which turned out good. I think we had close to 30,000, 40,000 people in the city. And it was really a county event because actually everyone from the county took part. And again, we need to keep planning that way and everybody come on out and pitch in and let's make this something big enough, not just for the city of Oxford, but for the county. Parks and Recreation. Program participant on average increased by 10% from the previous year. I can tell you I've been out to the basketball court for the last 2 weeks on weekends, and there's a whole lot of kids. The volleyball program this year was very good. I think we set a record and with the amount of participation in the city. Again, we in community involvement. We work with the schools, the youth programs we have, programs, events, maintenance. We did some things in Lake Devon. You want to get more in depth on that?
Later in the presentation.
Okay. We did some things in Lake Devon. Should be on the next one. Okay. We did, there's a couple of bridges been down there, and there's a nice pier for kayaks. So if you guys want to ride your kayak, there's a pier to go out there. Recent Parks and Recreation achievement. Revitalization Theater at City Hall to host concert, plays, movies, lectures, and other shows. Upgraded the lights and sound equipment, implemented an advanced ticketing system to allow for advanced purchases and aside seating online. Recent improvement in the Lake Devon Recreation Park, 2 pictures below will show it. Those are the bridges. We did a floating dock, replaced the bridge, added additional trail construction beginning. And one of the things I'm pushing the city manager to do, we need to get some camping cabins out there. Me and Mark talked about that quite in depth. So if we get some cabins out there, 6 or 8 to start out with, I think it'd be a great thing for the county. People can stay at home and stay in the county and go out and enjoy these things. Granville Street Park, we did a little remodeling of Granville Street Park. You know, it's been closed for decades. It's back open again, so that's good. X-Gym had improvement to windows and parking lot. We had addition to the parking lot to X-Gym. Install new playground in Oxford Park. Going forward for next 3 to 5 years, obtain more open space to increase recreation opportunities. Construct a new recreation center, more upgrades to Hicks Park. Hot Sauce Festival expanding for 2 days. We said that goes to make into a regional or national festival. I think we're going into a regional, and we're already a regional, I consider. I think we just need to go national and see if we can get some of you guys on ESPN tune down some peppers. Maybe Russ will be first one to join up. These are projects under construction, under review or proposals. This is 6,000 units, 6,000 plus units if all this goes right. That will increase the volume in the county, increase a lot of things that we want to see, not just in Oxford, but for everyone in the county. Street projects. Hillborough Street resurfaced, medians on College Street, second roundabout. Wow, that Hillborough Street resurface was a big one. I think it was a hot item on social media for the last year and a half while we're trying to get that done. Picture left, median on College Street. Right now, we are waiting to acceptance from the DOT.
We're just waiting on the contractor to show up. He had some issues in his family.
Oh, okay.
So it's been delayed a few weeks, but we expect it to start anytime now.
Okay, great. That's good improvement. Center recent history of road resurfacing in the last few years. We do have a little problem with resurfacing, and we need to come back and keep an eye on it, because while we do the main roads, we know that some of our neighborhoods, the streets need to resurface. And that's something that I think we all in here inherit along our careers in this job. Picture right, new roundabout on Williamsburg Street, currently working on hardscape and landscaping for the interior. We have some plans and we'll reveal it once we get there. Key Water and Sewer Initiative. Members of Carr Lake Regional Water System, which includes City of Henderson, Warren County, City of Oxford. Plant expansion will ultimately increase providing water from 10 million of gallons per day to about 20 million gallons per day. Oxford will increase from 2 million gallons a day to 4 million gallons per day. We currently use about 1.2 million gallons per day. Progressing with assets inventory analysts, 17.5 miles water line replacement, 10.5 miles of sewer line replacement. Again, we're good to say that if it was not for the water lines getting replaced, the fire that happened in 2023 would have been really a disaster, because those lines could have never handled the pressure. Advanced meter infrastructure installation has begun with 900 units, anticipated to be installed this year. Transmit water usage directed to City Hall, which creates greater efficiency and can alert customers to current usage and potential leaks. Goal is to have all homes equipped with them in 4 years, which is digital. It gives a reading, goes straight to City Hall. We wouldn't have to have much meter reading unless we want to verify the system. Studying who has lead copper pipes in the system. That's a system, a program that's going on. We go to see who has lead in their system, and we're going to have to start replacing those stuff. It's mandated. The day in the life of water and sewer department. These guys work really hard. Especially around Christmas time, we had major leaks in like 3 different locations, and these guys were out there early in the morning in the freezing weather and the rain, taking care of it. Maintain 3 water towers. 2 are 300,000 gallon. 1 is located downtown, 1 on Henry Street, and a 750,000 gallon tank on Industry Drive. Lift stations and water tanks monitored by SCADA, supervisor control and data acquisition computer system that will send alerts for low level and high levels. Pumps not working and various other faults. Carlake Regional uses or SCADA to monitor levels and fill our tanks when needed. So if our tanks go below level, they get alert and they got to fill it up. You bring some more pumps in line and fill it up for us. Our locator perform an average of 15 locates a day. Clean about 50,000 feet of sewer lines per year. Maintains over 81 miles of sewer lines and 11 lift stations. Maintains over 90 miles of water mains throughout the city. Our comprehensive plan goals. 1, improve civic pride, community engagement, quality of life, and public safety, such that all citizens and businesses are proud to call Oxford home. Goal 2, invigorate downtown with housing, shopping, employment, opportunities, and gathering spaces. Goal 3, cultivate a diverse economy that champions large and small businesses. Goal 4, ensures equitable access to parks and natural areas, including recreational facilities, trails, and greenways. Goal 5, preserve and protect historic assets and cultural institutions with new programming and adaptive reuse. Goal 6, invest in a new and existing public infrastructure and program that delivers safe, high quality, and efficient service to all customers. Goal 7, diversity, the housing supply with a range of housing types accessible and affordable to all residents. Strategic priorities, preparing for responsible growth. Continuation of Carl Lake Water Treatment Plant, infrastructure plant, utilities, roads. Downtown master plan, working in segments. Expand recreation opportunities. Public facilities, police station, fire substation, and public works headquarters. Collaborate with those interested in an economic development team. Address parking concerns. Repurpose the Army. As you may see, the fence are down, and we're going to really doing some work in there and get it done, and then we get a consensus from the community and see what we want to do with that place, and hopefully we can get some of you guys to join in with us and work with us on that. Departmental employee career development, pay merit competitive, pay and class study, empower employees for creative work, increase training opportunities for more skilled workforce. And what I want to close is saying, I think it's due. The city of Oxford and the county does not have a joint session in a very long time. I don't know, maybe guys has been around here 30, 40 years, maybe can help. I'm only been here a year and 14 months now, so I would like for us to do a joint session. We need to talk about a vision or goals and set a pathway to achieve them. And they're only going to happen if we work as a team. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor Nurse. We appreciate it. And now, our next presentation is the,
It's me.
yeah, it's me. It's Bobby Willer. It's our Creedmoor Mayor, Bobby Willer. And Creedmoor City Manager, Frank Turner. Thank you.
Thank you all thank you very much for the opportunity to be here tonight. At my age, it's a good opportunity to be anywhere nowadays. I want to remind Mayor Nurse that one thing you should learn when you first become mayor is not to let the police catch you. The second thing is I found out that our sheriff's deputies don't have much of a sense of humor. I stopped at City Hall. They had a sheriff's deputy's car in a no parking zone. I made a complaint. They were all standing in there. They did not want them cracked a smile. So I canceled my complaint. So anyway, let's see what I've got here. All right, as you can see, this is the city of Creedmoor start, if I can figure out how to do this thing here. I guess it's the bottom button, top button, side button.
Side button.
Side button. I got it. Okay, one of the first thing here, this is our new Veterans Memorial Monument. I think a lot of you came and helped us dedicate that. It reads, the citizens of the city of Creedmoor dedicate this monument to honor those who served in the armed forces to protect the freedoms established by our founding fathers. It's dedicated 2024. We have placed it in the corner in front of the gym in case you need to come by there. And it's the cornerstone of our Veterans Memorial Park. So we're very proud of all that. We also have a flag sit there, which we have sold bricks around the flag, which commemorate veterans and members of the military. We've also established some of these hometown hero banners. As you can see, these are available to buy. They hang in uptown during Memorial Day, Veterans holidays, July 4th, that type of thing, to recognize some of our veterans that are still with us and some that have passed away. 2024 Creedmoor Music Festival. We had, about 30,000 people, 40? How many we have at that, would you estimate?
Just less than that. Let's just say.
Okay, a little less than 40,000. How about that? We were packed wall to wall all day long. We stretched from the BP station all the way down to CVS. Vendors all did well. The music was great. If you weren't down there, we hope that you will show up this year. Next is our dunking booth, which was at the music festival. We thank Commissioner Georgiana Kaczynski for our dunking booth. This was Police Chief Troy Wheelis. He can be mayor if he wants to. We also had Sheriff Robert Fountain, who was one of the sheriff's deputies in the sheriff's department that also came to be with us that day. I used to tell a little joke about him being in there, but I was told I ought not to do that anymore, or the sheriff's department will actually show up at my door. We have new wayfinding signs. These are stationed all through Creedmoor. We had the inspiration, again, Commissioner Kaczynski was really in favor of this, to where we could show, we have businesses that are down side streets that people really didn't know were even there. So we've established these wayfinding signs so that visitors and the people of Creedmoor will know where our main features are at. This is our newest PD member, a K9 Luck. If I remember correctly, Luck is trained in drug sniffing and location.
Yes, sir.
Not criminals or as a police dog, but more in drugs. So we're really beautiful dog. This is our second one. We lost our first one to illness. So we're very pleased to have this one, and he's working out real well. This is our, our new City Hall renovation in our police department. Let me keep hitting that thing wrong. And at this time, I'm kind of going to let the city manager point out where everything is and what's what.
Okay, well, you can see City Hall is over here to an 8. We looked at several conceptions. One was to join this building with another building. We were able to reduce our site costs by moving it over onto a flat lower level. We've got parking in the rear, we've got handicap accessibility, and we've got much more room, or twice the room that we had for the police department, because we're getting ready to grow. We're getting ready to pop as soon as Stovall gets this infrastructure in. Our population is expected to jump twice what it is now. It's 5,043, but it's going to over 10,000 if all these subdevelopments come in that are staging themselves and trying to go through the proper process right now. So,
one other thing we're doing too, we currently, our CDO is in the corner of Main Street. And so by moving the police department out to their own building, we will now have room for the developmental ordinance group. And so our city facilities will basically be all in one building. So, and with these two together, we'll have administrative campus that kind of gets everybody a little closer. This is a picture of the police department with an alternate metal roof. We wanted it to blend as much as we could with City Hall, and this way we'll do it. Excuse me. And the fact that it's an alternate metal roof would insinuate we may go a different direction. There is some discussion we may go with the energy solar panels on top. We're still discussing that. Moving Creedmoor forward, first 5-year capital improvement projects have been discussed. The first emergency operation plan is being discussed to be put in place. We have a 10-year Parks and Rec system-wide comprehensive master plan and a legislative annexation. Most of these operation plan and master plans is in preparation for, as the city manager said, we're expecting once sewer is done and within the next 5 years, Creedmoor will double or go to even more. We're currently around 5,200 people, so that'll be more than 10,000. We want to be proactive. We don't want these people to come in, we charge them taxes and now say, we've got to do all this to get ready for them. We want to be ready when they get here. So that's what we're trying to do here. Legislative annexation is one of the things I've kind of worked on since I've been mayor. Creedmoor has areas that are, we've got a slide, that's the orange.
Orange, yes, sir.
The orange areas here are inside the city limits, but they're not in the city jurisdiction. Naturally, it's kind of difficult to annex with it has to be voluntary. So we have submitted some bills to the legislature and the Senate and the House of Representatives to allow us to take those into the city. We have citizens a little upset about that, but the way we look at it, you're getting fire protection, you're getting police protection. This way, everybody's still paying their fair share and they're getting the full services of the city of Creedmoor. Next is our new fast-paced urgent care center. I think Oxford's got one. This is where they are. They're moving pretty fast on this. This will go on Highway 56, Wilton Avenue, right there where the food line is. We're really excited about this. This will be one of our first medical facilities since our local doctor's office closed down. This is our new easement parking lot. One of the issues we've had in Creedmoor is the lack of general parking. Main Street in Creedmoor, which is Highway 50, is very narrow, so we've got people that can park but not pull in and park. So this is an area that we're hoping, we have a lease on it, and we're hoping to establish a parking area on Main Street for more of the citizens to park, customers to park. The way it is now, a lot of our business owners are parking on Main Street, so therefore our customers don't have anywhere to park, and if they don't have anywhere to park, they're not going to stop. Following the Siguasa upgrades, we have Brames Crossing coming in. They already have an allocation of sewer. They have started clearing the property, so it should be here soon, 170 homes. We have Creedmoor Village, which is pending. That will be 700 homes. Yorkshire is pending approval. They'll have 500 homes. And then Mary Lane, which is also on 56, not 56, Mulsage Road, 56. Well, yeah, 56 will be 800 homes. Potential population growth of 5,425, bringing us up to 10,468. So as you can see, we're trying our best to have infrastructure in place so that we can handle that growth before it gets here and not try to backtrack and rush things. New water feature coming to Lake Rogers. We're going to put in a water fountain just right that empty area between the dam and the walkway and possibly put lights on it so that it'll shine in special occasions. And this is our Board of Commissioners. I want to recognize Mayor Pro Tem Ed Gleason, Commissioner Georgiana Kaczynski, Commissioner Emma Albright, Commissioner Robert Way, and City Manager Mike Turner. I also like to take a second just real quick to thank I want to thank our city clerk, Barbara Rouse, who prepared all this for me. And I also want to recognize County Commissioners Russ May and Tim Karen, who regularly attend our meetings are very helpful to us as far as our planning with the county. So, any questions? Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it, and thank you all for what you do for us.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Wheeler. Thank you, City Manager. And next up is the Town of STEM Mayor Casey Dover. Welcome, Casey.
Hey, good evening, everybody. This is the 8th time I've done this. Hard to believe. Wow, 24 is gone and 25 is here. 24 was a crazy year. Before I get started, I wanted to make everybody understand. It's funny, I watch everybody's talks about their staffing and stuff. So the Town of STEM is a part-time clerk, a part-time zoning administrator, a mayor, and 5 commissioners. And I have 5 commissioners that are back in the back that I absolutely glad to be on their team. They're focused on the vision for the Town of STEM, and we move it forward. And I'm going to share a little bit with you guys tonight. So I want to get started real quick. In 24, we partnered with I can never remember the name of this organization, the NC Main Street Rural Planning Office. And from that came a vision statement that this is what greetings from the Town of STEM. At the crossroads of southern Granville County, STEM preserves a diverse culture, history, natural beauty, and creative spirit. STEM connects a big city convenience to small town living. We have all the elements for local owned restaurants, shops, artisans to thrive in our community. Coming home to STEM is a breath of fresh air with outdoor activities, ample trails, and public gathering spaces. And this is our future. This is what we see STEM being. In spring of 24, partnered with the NC Main Street Rural Planning Office. We had multiple community meetings, one open forum for the community input. The Community Economic Development Assessment Plan was completed and adopted by the town board in April 2024. Recommendations included additional town events, downtown master plan, and establishing an economic development advisory board. The town applied to and was selected for the Rural Community Capacity Program in May of 24, which was offered through the NC Department of Commerce. Mayor Pro Tem Susan Cope attended monthly classes on topics related to rural economic development at Appalachian State University from May through September. By completing a series of classes, the town was eligible for grant funding offering for the RC2 participants. That was major for us. That took many months of work to get to that. One of the other things we've done is we've updated our website. I know that sounds small, but for a town with no IT staff, it takes a lot to do. And Commissioner Cope, I've got to give her props for this because she drove this project. The STEMNC.org is now compliant with ADA requirements. Citizens can choose to sign up for notifications via email or text. Town can send real-time emergency notifications via email or text. And we also have a built-in ticketing system that allows our citizens to interact with us if they have a problem with zoning or loose dogs or anything of that nature, which we see plenty of those. All right, so let's look on to 25. Residential development. STEM is growing rapidly with 3 new developments, two starting home construction within the next 30 days. The 291 homes will nearly double the town's population within the next 24 to 36 months. So we're excited about that. We did a final walkthrough on 2 of them last Friday. And so they're going to start putting homes up very shortly. The town of STEM received $45,000 in funding from the RC2 program in November to be used to fund a design for the downtown master plan. The request for proposal is expected to be approved by the board at the next meeting, which is tomorrow night, and put out for advertisement in early March. And selection and notification of a designer is expected to be completed by July of 2025. Designs are expected to be completed by the end of 25. We're really excited about this. The 2 empty lots, the town owns, we want to bring a town back to STEM, so there's a place. That being said, we have a proposed what they call the STEM Town Center. It's 24 acres currently in the rezoning process, has 65,000 square feet of retail, office, and restaurants with outdoor dining, 15,000 square foot pharmacy, an 8,000 square foot bank with drive-through, a 25,000 square foot grocery store, 8,000 square foot daycare, and multiple parks and trails. We're extremely excited about this project. So it's in process right now, going through our zoning process. So growing with the town with the people. We're deploying a new Black Mountain accounting software. We're adding radar signs to address citizen concerns with speeding. We've had lots of that lately. We're updating our police cars equipment with electronic ticketing systems. Tomorrow night, the town will pass a resolution to hire a part-time town administrator and make that offer. And we've also added an additional part-time zoning administrator to grow with the people. I've got to have some help. It's crazy. So those mayors that have managers, be very grateful. I can just tell you, because I'd love to have one. And finally, the town acquired property and selected an architectural firm to design a new town hall building. And so our goal is to be working on that shortly. We hope to have that later this summer, start moving forward. And with that, thank you very much, and I appreciate all of you. Let us know if we can help.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Dover. Thank you for your presentation. And now the town of Stovall, Commissioner Jeff Stovall.
Hey.
How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Welcome.
All right. My name is Jeff Stovall. I'm a commissioner with the town of Stovall. I'm also the mayor pro tem. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'd like to thank the towns of Oxford, Stem, Creedmoor, and Butner. I know I've called on many of you throughout this year, and you guys have helped me, true professionals. You've shown courtesy and respect, and for that, I thank you. I'd also like to thank the commissioners for the opportunity to address you. I'm sorry we weren't here last year. Jim and Drew, I'd like to thank you guys. I know how hard you guys work for the county. And Karen, I'd like to thank you too. I had a speech prepared, and she said, "No, maybe you should do a PowerPoint." So she talked me off the ledge, and so here we are. I created this myself, so I only have myself to blame. We are the town of Stovall, population of 374. We might be up there to 390, but we are 1 square mile total, and we have approximately 165 residences. Granville County Commissioners, it is undeniable that your fingerprints are all over our town, and so therefore, I'd like to update you on how your investments have shaped the town of Stovall in 2024. And I'd like to bring you up to date on what we've done as stewards of those investments. And in preparation for this presentation, I have reached out to the following entities for their input on what they're particularly proud of. And every single person that I reached out to responded to me within 24 hours. And these entities, along with our churches, are the backbone of our town. And these are salt of the earth people. These are the type of people that you want on your side, and these are the type of people that you will go to bat for. First is the North Granville Senior Center. And without a doubt, the construction of the new senior center has dominated our headlines in 2024. And we cannot thank you enough for making that project a reality. I could spend my whole allotted time talking about the new senior center. However, did you know that the current senior center, which is housed in a facility owned by the town of Stovall, has served over 7,196 meals in 2024. We hired an energetic and dynamic new program coordinator, Ms. Susan Tucker, who has introduced a host of new programming, including Wii Bowling, documentaries, series on gratitude and decluttering, and seminars on a variety of topics such as estate planning and financial planning, just to name a few. The center has hosted successful drives, both for ACIM and Hurricane Helene relief. In 2024, they held their largest event ever, a Fall Fest, in partnership with the Granville County Sheriff's Office, which had over 75 seniors in attendance. North Granville Senior Center had a phenomenal year, and I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot about them in 2025. The Stovall Community Park, rated as Granville County's only 5-star park, and your recreation mini grant process has made it that way. Stovall Community Park has hosted a record number of community events in 2024, from Halloween and Christmas events to a vacation Bible school at the park, which included 6 community churches, as well as the aforementioned Senior Fest. And take it from me, as someone who lives next to the park, it's not uncommon to hear squeals of joy from early in the morning till late in the evening. It truly is a community park. The Stovall Branch Library. Miss Lori Sharp and Deborah Bullock are most proud of their diversity of services the diversity of services they offer, including monthly social services meeting, Red Cross blood drives, farm to fridge programs, providing weekly produce donations. If you ever go in there, they have a huge fridge stocked full of produce, SIPs for seniors, a farmer's market, a children's event and kids club, which my kids obviously particularly love, and the list goes on and on. The Stovall Branch Library is truly an asset to our town. The Stovall Shaw Elementary School. I spoke with Principal Teresa McGee. Stovall Shaw continues to be one of the most desirable elementary schools in the county. Stovall Shaw has met or exceeded all state testing levels, has low teacher turnover. They've actually expanded the number of teachers this year, and in 2024, the town of Stovall was happy to host a tour of this of Stovall event for the youngsters, where they learned all about what we do uptown, and it was a wonderful event that put a smile on everybody's face. The town will continue to support the school and its success in any way we can. The Stovall Volunteer Fire Department spoke to Chief Kevin Moat. As you know, there was a lot of uncertainty surrounding the fire protection agreement, how it would all shake out. This town of Stovall opted into the fire tax, and as a result of the efforts of the county and the department, membership and community outreach are at an all-time high. People love seeing full-time firefighters at the station, and we took advantage of the fire protection agreement and became first responders. The department has built a state-of-the-art live burn training facility where firefighters from all over Granville County, as well as other counties, come to learn and train. We have partnered with the Advanced Granville Community College with the live burn training facility and are excited for this relationship to flourish. Big things are coming from the fire department in 2025. The Stovall Police, Chief Craig Williams, who we are very lucky to have. We both agree that the crime rate in Stovall is next to nothing, and that's a direct result of having a big law enforcement presence in our town, which we encourage. The Stovall Town Police and the Granville County Sheriff's Office operate in lockstep, with the Sheriff's Department having the ability to use the Stovall Police Department at any time, which helps with reports, much needed breaks, and other official duties. We're also proud of the fact that we have a sheriff's deputy on our roster that's also a member of the U.S. Marshals Task Force, so that in turn gives us more resources to utilize. And our department is constantly in contact with the sheriff's deputies about utilizing mutual aid. The Granville County EMS station, I spoke with Jonathan Purnell and Dylan Cash. They are a key provider to pre-hospital emergency care. The EMS station in Stovall provides life-saving services to members of the northern part of our county. It's housed in a building owned by the town of Stovall. This EMS station fielded a tremendous amount of calls over this past year, and these folks work tirelessly to answer any emergency that they are called on to handle. We're lucky to have each one of them as a member of our team who deeply cares for our citizens. The Stovall Medical Center. With 2 practicing physicians and 5 specialty areas, the Stovall Medical Center continues to provide top-notch medical care and pharmaceutical care to our residents and those in the northern end of the county, especially our elderly residents who find the location to be exceptionally convenient. But your investments are starting to pay dividends in 2024 as it is our mission to be good stewards of your efforts. So what have we been doing? Well, we've been doing a lot. We secured a $10 million water grant. That's two $200,000 planning grants for water and sewer, a $1.8 million grant for repairs to our water system, and a $7.8 million grant for a new distribution tank and system. This project is moving along nicely, and hopefully we'll begin construction phase in the next few months. We will continue to be vigilant in our search for grants to improve Stovall, but we can't live on grants and the goodwill of others alone. Last year as a town, we have passed a record number of resolutions, policies, and ordinances. As a council, we will continue to refine and hone our internal procedures to keep up with the growth and listen to our citizens' needs and wants, which in turn we have codified. We passed a balanced budget with no tax increase. A lot of work was put into this year's budget cycle. Town commissioners were cognizant of the revaluation and the disproportionate impact that it had on lower valued properties, coupled with our high senior population, many of whom lived in a fixed income. We passed a balanced budget with no tax increase. Even if that meant a majority of our elected officials donated their pay back to the town. Our tax rate, by the way, is 0.275 per 100. We hosted a record number of community events, from Stovall Fun Day to Halloween at the park to Christmas at the park, the first annual Stovall 3-on-3 basketball tournament. You're looking at the winner. Stovall Volunteer Fire Department Fall Fest, Senior Center Fall Fest, just to name a few. These events bring together everyone in our town and have brought together thousands of people to Stovall this year, a trend that we would like to continue. We've refined our zoning ordinances. In June of 2021, we adopted a comprehensive zoning ordinance, which was subsequently amended in 2023. Like many rural communities and small towns, we are facing challenges, including rapid growth, while we're also trying to balance and maintain safe, affordable housing, access to recreation, and growing retail opportunities. We continue to strive for smart growth strategies that can help our town achieve our goal for growth and development while maintaining our property rights and distinct rural character. We've worked hard at increasing transparency for the public and community involvement. We've tried to keep our citizens informed of the decisions we made and why we make them by hosting informational events, increased our communications. We established a civic committee this year or last year, which would focus on beautification projects, as well as hosting a signature town festival and reviving our downtown area. But this is no time to pat ourselves on the back. More work needs to be done. Tax increase, it's inevitable. Hopefully we'll have given our citizens some time to save and prepare. How much of an increase is yet to be determined, but it is what is needed to continue to expand our tax base and grow. Adoption of a visual blight ordinance and a code enforcement officer. This has been on our radar for some years now. I would fully expect in 2025 this to happen. It's what the citizens of our town want, and hopefully it'll instill some pride in the community and help attract new residents and desirable businesses. Modernize town operations. We have a great staff in the town of Stovall. Janet Parrott and Amala Rowley do a fantastic job, but at the end of the day, they're just two of them. We need to be innovative. We need to think and implement our inner workings to be more efficient, and it's something that we are doing. We just started taking credit card payments. We're further developing our website, and we're familiarizing ourselves with new technology. Expanding the police department. We have a fantastic police. Unfortunately, their headquarters is a size of a child's room with no windows. We need to not only update their facilities and equipment, but also increase the number of officers. We did purchase a new vehicle this year and the necessary equipment that has helped us tremendously with our traffic concerns. We're also looking into a four-way stop at the intersection of Highway 15 and Main Street in Stovall in 2025. 2025 preview, uncertainty looms. We have a big election coming up this year in the town of Stovall with 3 out of the 5 commissioners' seats and the mayor's seat up for grab. 2 of those seats belong to longtime commissioners, both of which have indicated their time as public servants may be coming to an end. In a town of less than 400 people, finding and convincing citizens who are willing to be public servants and run for office is a challenge. I am hopeful that this election will result in a group of individuals who can work together and hit the ground running in 2026. Development and use of town-owned property. Once the new senior center has been complete, the current facility that is owned by the town will be vacant. In addition, our current maintenance facility houses a meeting room that could be further used and developed. Further revamping of Town Hall is something that has been needed for quite some time. We're currently evaluating the best uses of these properties, and we're looking forward to possibly partnering with the county as it relates to those facilities. Town turnover and recruitment of new talent. Stovall is lucky to have many longtime public servants, and while I wish they could work forever, the reality is they cannot. And so this will be a real issue that we face in 2025 and something that we need to start preparing for. All things considered, 2024 was a banner year for the town of Stovall, and in large part, we have you to thank for our success. On behalf of the elected officials, we will continue to focus on providing the very best services for our residents, promoting the right kind of economic development, expanding our tax base, as always with the eye towards how can we make things better. We want to ensure that the town of Stovall continues to be a great place to live, work, and raise a family. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Commissioner Stovall. Thank you very much. And last but certainly not least is the town of Butner with Mayor Jordan and Town Manager Jordan McMillan.
The Jordan and Jordan team. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you this evening. But first, before I get started, I want to recognize some of our board members that took the time to come up with us this evening. That is Councilmember Josh Shank, Vicki Daniels, Tom Lane, and Ed Sosa. Thank you for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to keep the county informed of what is happening in the big city of Butner. We are very appreciative of how the commissioners are involved across the county and the working relationships we have with the county and our neighboring towns. All right. Whoops. Oh, jeez. Yeah, I know, right? Okay. To the right. Oh, goodness. All right, this is too fancy. Okay, there we go. So it's the side button?
Yes.
Okay. All right, go back to the next one. No. Maybe that's why I was moving. The one's missing with the gazebo. No. All righty. Yeah, I don't see the first one.
Which button is it?
Okay, that's the very first one.
She's locked it now.
All right. So which one is it?
It's not responding.
Yeah, it's not, okay, so it wasn't crazy. The stick out tires, okay, all righty. Now the technology has taken over. So there's two pictures here, the one with the gazebo and our town hall. That really shows, these two pictures represent our past. And the community members advocated for the gazebo, as well as our military history is in our town hall. The bottom pictures that you see are our town hall and our new performance stage, and that represents the future for the town of Butner. So our main focus this evening is to share some of the accomplishments over the past year, touch on our upcoming projects that our town manager Jordan will talk about, and then highlight some opportunities for the county and the town of Butner to partner with. All right, let's see if I can get this right. Okay. All right, so as we look over the past year, many of our accomplishments have been preparing about the future. You'll see that as well as in these upcoming projects, 2024 and the next couple of years are really a year of preparation for the town. This particular slide will show you that Butner's first strategic plan was put in place in 2024. So in January, we held work sessions to establish our mission, our vision, and our values. In November, we had work sessions to establish our key focus areas, focus on our objectives, and specific initiatives that we wanted to look at. And then in January of 2025 this year, we had a formal adoption of this particular plan. So as you see here, we have our mission, vision, and values. The mission is why we exist. The town of Butner is an evolving and diverse and full of diverse history. We provide helpful and supportive environment through our services. Our vision is the destination. We are a thriving town. We encourage collaborative community using small town charm, diverse culture, rich history. We strengthen economic viability and liability. And then our values are how we are going to go about our business and how we get to our vision. So these are the 4 focus areas: economic development, organizational excellence, safe, vibrant, and healthy community, parks and recreation, cultural resources. Under economic development, these are our objectives: to develop Umstead property as a town center to increase retail, entertainment, community, and residential opportunities. Number 2, to develop Butner Gateway and surrounding roadway and infrastructure network. Number 3, to increase walkability in our town because we want to make sure that our citizens remain healthy and have the opportunity to walk when they need to. Number 4 is to develop a retail base and amenities. And number 5, the objective is to value our current town assets and viability of selling Old Town Hall and G Street properties. So these are the 4 key areas. Under operational excellence, our objectives are financial stability and viability, plan for future staff, and facilities as space is needed. Under safe, vibrant, and healthy community, we're going to focus on increasing collaboration, engagement, and partnership with existing human services agencies in the county, for example, DSS, Crime Stoppers, Public Health, and others. And second is to be in advocacy to state agencies that impact the health and well-being of our Butner residents. Parks and recreation. To increase and expand indoor and outdoor recreational opportunities for all ages, and land acquisition and facility development. 2024 has been a year of planning, and in addition to the town's first strategic plan, the town adopted our first capital improvement plan as well. That leads us to a few major capital projects the town has taken on, and our town manager, Jordan McMillan, will walk you through that.
You did good, Mayor. 45 more minutes, we'll be there. We all love to talk about our towns, and the good news is we're talking about Granville County as well when we're talking about our towns. So the mayor mentioned this planning phase that we're in. We're doing a lot of planning, as the other towns are, for the growth that's coming. So 2024 and the next couple of years really is about planning for us. She mentioned, in addition to the strategic plan, our capital improvement plan, which kind of brings us into some of our capital projects that we've accomplished this past year. The first of which is our state-of-the-art, brand new performance stage. This was a just under $750,000 project. We want to thank you all and the TDA who put $70,000 into that over 2 fiscal years. And we welcome you to come out to the groundbreaking and the ribbon cutting. We're going to have at the end of April, April 25th, Friday, April 25th. We're going to have a band. We plan to build more community around this facility. So April 25th at 5:30. We'll have food trucks. We'll have kids games, a band. It's a part of our Grooving at the Gazebo series that we've been doing for music and gathering, building community. So that was a major project for us this year. The other major project for us was a demolition of the former Umstead Correction Center, which is now all gone. That was a $1.1 million project that we received $825,000 in Commerce grant money. So now the conversation becomes, what do we do with that property? That was 75,000 square feet, was around from the 50s, aged, asbestos. It was about half of the cost getting rid of the asbestos. And so in the upcoming budget year, we're going to talk about this property, 36 acres that the town has in the middle of town, and just begin the process. The challenge for us is that, like the other towns, we have a lot of growth, but we want retail and amenities in Butner. The problem is we're not going to get retail and amenities till we have the rooftop. So we're being patient while we're trying to plan for the future, and this is a key property, one of the projects. The last project is one that we worked together with you all on. We took on a project. We had a Altec, the Greenway Bridge that back in May decided to collapse or nearly collapse. There were 2 sewer lines that were downstream of this bridge, and the county built this in 2012 and 2013. So we, the town, stepped in and we took that off your plate. You built it, but we spent about $220,000 rebuilding, tearing down the bridge, rebuilding it. This is one of 3 bridges along that Greenway. So as we're talking about partnering, we did it this year. We came through, and so now we had a contractor, environmental engineer, who stabilized the stream, stabilized the sewer lines, rebuilt this. So that was another unexpected major project for us this past year. So that's kind of the couple of major projects we wanted to highlight. We have a number of upcoming things we want to mention project-wise, some that the town is doing and some that are happening in town that we're a part of. This is a project that DOT is doing at the intersection of West Line Station and Highway 56. They're realigning and building a new intersection. This has been coming for many years. You guys are familiar with it. Tom Lane is very happy to see this happen. It is now awarded, and we anticipate very soon begin construction through 2026. Will be a new intersection just off of exit 191 in Butner. This is a roundabout that the town received $2 million in grant money from the carbon reduction program. DOT put some money into it. The town has put some money into it. Total $2.5 million project. We just awarded a design contract for $500,000 to Kittleson and Associates. And so we anticipate, stay tuned, 4 years down the road, we may have a roundabout at this location. This is at the end of Central Avenue as you're heading towards Central Regional Hospital, but we're in the planning stages, so it's getting exciting. Again, we're doing a lot of planning in Butner. So we are studying, on the left side is the roadway from Interstate 85 in Gate 2 Road and Central Avenue. We have a partnership with Kimley Horn, where we pay them a lot of money and they come and tell us what to do. So we're working with Kimley Horn, and they are studying the traffic transportation corridor coming into town. As a part of that, we are looking to design a roadway into the Butner Gateway. The town owns the first 50 acres, and so we're at the early stages exploring wetlands. So we're learning a lot about that property and the ability for the future. So again, stay tuned there as we're doing a good bit of design work. For the upcoming year, we're talking about expanding the parking lot at the sports arena. We're looking to expand recreational opportunities. So we're adding some office space in the facility. There's a conversation we're going to have around budget, whether or not we start a recreation department and add a recreation director. We have a great partnership with the South Granville Athletic Association, who handles the programming, but we would like to get into more programming. We would like to have more soccer fields, multi-purpose fields. And so this is a project to add a parking lot and maybe even a soccer field. We'll see. So running through these, want to just touch on a project. Again, we're not doing this, but it's in our community. You all are very familiar with the Stovall sewer project, $75 million project. Half of that approximately has already been under contract. You heard it from all of the other towns. That's going to have a major impact on growth in southern Granville County. But Butner is going to be a construction zone for the next 3 years. We're going to see this project. We're going to see the other intersection that I mentioned that DOT is doing. So there's going to be some growing pains, but when we get through that, there's going to be a lot on the other side. And what's on the other side is what you're hearing from the other towns as well, growth. And we have a pretty good idea of the parcels in green would be residential. You heard about doubling population. If you add up all 6 of those residential parcels, that could be 7,000 additional people in Butner. And you know, the first one at the top, we approved a rezoning for this past year for 800 some units, and just continue to come down the line. And our neighbors in Creedmoor, and I just messed that one up. Our neighbors in Creedmoor have Creedmoor Village right here, which is in their limits. So there's an opportunity for us to work with them and to partner. That on their slide showed 700 units. So you add that in there and you're over 7,000 population just in this little area. Parcels in red are industrial. We have a lot of good prospects, interest from industrial companies. That's the parcels in red. And then the Butner Gateway is the area in yellow right in the middle that we're learning more about this year. So again, the theme of the night, I think, is growth and partnerships. And when it comes to partnerships, we see a lot of opportunity to work with the county. Right in the middle of town, Butner STEM Elementary School could be a great project. We'd love to partner on that. Again, our interest is in building recreational facilities, corner ball field, but we're a small town and we can't keep spending $1 million here and $1 million there. We have a $10 million budget, so we'd love to partner with the county there. The second one is around recreational opportunities. We want more greenways. We want more use of the lake assets, multi-purpose fields. The third one, some of you serve on the Campo board, and I've heard before about, Butner. We're split. We're partly in the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization and the Cartar Rural Planning Organization. Challenge is most of our projects come in the RPO. Most of our planning comes in the MPO. But we need advocacy at Campo because the county is our member at the table for Campo, and particularly Highway 56, where we have our retail area. It is dangerous and needs some work. So would love your advocacy there. As you all know, we have a lot of state property in Butner, a lot of underutilized state property. So advocating for some of that to be released. Successful completion of the Seguasa project. We did add a school resource officer this year for the schools in Butner. Just in general, more county services to the southern end of the county. We'd love to have that, and you all have done a great job in doing it, but just if you'll continue, I'll point to that school property again. And then just economic development in general, the support. We've worked very closely with your economic developers over the years. There is a lot of industrial interest in Butner. But we're interested also in retail and amenities. So plenty to do. We just appreciate the opportunity to work with you and to tell you a little bit about what we have going on in Butner. Mayor, anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think you've got it covered. Any
Okay.
questions?
Thank you.
No questions? Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor Jordan, and thank you, Town Manager McMillan. We appreciate your presentation, and we appreciate the presentation made by everyone here tonight. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Does any commissioners have any closing remarks they'd like to make? Remember, we're only going to recess until Friday morning. And by the way, everyone's welcome to come back and join us at 8:30 Friday morning. Does any of the commissioners have anything they'd like to say? If not,
We took a photo last year. They want to take one again.
Nothing further here either. Just want to appreciate all of our municipal partners who've come tonight and shared their visions and their strategic plans and their achievements. It's an impressive part of our retreat every year. I really enjoy it, and I'm so glad to see all of the other elected boards so well represented by most, if not all, of their elected members. That's great. Thank you so much for coming, and I think that is it for us tonight. Yes, and with that, we're not going to adjourn. We're just going to declare recess until Friday morning at 8:30. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. If you want to stay around and take some pictures, welcome to do that. Thank you all.